Mr. Buck.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 12th, 2025 City of Lockport Plan and Zoning Commission meeting. We will start the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Kathy, will you take roll call when you are ready?
Here. Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the October 22nd, 2025 Special Plan and Zoning Commission meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Giorgetti. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Peters. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. It's an unusually large crowd. So I'd like to start by outlining just a few parameters so everyone understands the procedure. First is, we're glad you're here. We appreciate public input. It is important. So everyone understands the process for a public hearing case. I will ask to open the public hearing. Then our staff will present a case, followed by the applicant who may wish to add any additional information to be seen or heard. Then I will open questions to the applicant and staff for the commissioners. And once we have any clarity and additional understanding that we need, I will then open the public comment section, which is where we will hear from citizens that wish to be heard. At that point, if there are lingering questions out there, I may ask the applicant to come back up and respond to those prevailing questions that may need further response to the public comment. After that, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will begin dialogue and deliberation. And it's that point that there will be a one-way conversation. There will be no further public comment. You are welcome to stay here and listen to our deliberation. Once we're finished with that, we will hope to act on the proposed motions that are with the case. Second parameter, with the large number that we have here this evening, I'd ask individuals who wish to speak during the public comment portion of the public hearing to limit their comments to 5 minutes. If you have a point or a comment that is similar to a point that has already been made, we would appreciate if you could just come up and say, I support the point that was made on this subject, and head back to your seat. Or you don't have to come up if your point has already been heard. It's best to hear all of our, it's best that way so we can get to everybody's comments this evening. On a personal note, as my time as a commissioner here in Lockport, which has been a number of years now, observation I've made is that often the most influential comments are short, concise, informed, and relevant. Third item I'd like to throw out there is for this to be a productive meeting, we'll expect everyone here to be respectful of those speaking. In order to be clearly heard and understood, we ask others to remain quiet, refrain from applause or cheering, booing, other disruptive behavior. I know many of you have probably been to these meetings before, so we ask you to help educate any others who may be here for the first time. So we have a productive meeting and good decorum. So with that, I thank you for being here, and I will begin the public hearing section, unless I've missed anything, Lance.
It's suggested it might help move along if I swear in anyone that might be testifying in any of the 4 public hearings, all at the beginning, so we can get them all done at once, and then that way when someone's going to testify, all you have to ask is you've already been sworn, and they give you an affirmative answer, we can save a lot of time that way if you'd like.
That is a great idea, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you.
So anyone that wants to testify for any of the 4 hearings, including staff and our consultant, please stand up, and I'm going to have you raise your right hand. Anyone with public comment, if you want to testify during a public hearing, please stand up and raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that my testimony in tonight's hearing will be the truth and nothing but the truth. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. And before I open the first case, I would ask the commissioners if we would have a motion to strike the 20-minute limitation to the public comment portion of our public hearing cases that is noted in the public comment section of the handout. That
Sure, I'll make that motion to limit or to remove the limitation of the 20 minutes from the public commentary section.
okay, there is a motion by Peters. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Second by Quinn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, our first case, number 2025-002, is a special use permit for planned development, preliminary development plan, final plats of subdivision for the entire development, rezoning of the R1, R2, R3, R4, and C2 districts, and final development plan for Phase 1 for the property located between Briggs Street, Farrell Road, Bruce Road, and Oak Street, otherwise known as Serenity Landing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I will be recusing myself from this first public hearing item as to avoid a potential conflict of interest.
Okay. Mr. Quinn?
I will be recusing myself
Yeah,
from this first
make sure it's green. It's on the other.
I will be recusing myself from this first public hearing item as to avoid a potential conflict of interest.
That is accepted. We will let you know when this case moves on to the next one. Thank you. Kyle? Is there a motion to open a public hearing for the case that I just mentioned?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Giorgetti,
I'll second that.
second by Calderon. All in favor, please say aye. Motion passes. Staff, would you like to present this case
I
on
certainly
Serenity
will.
Landing?
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Knight.
Chairman. This is case number 2025-002, commonly called Serenity Landing. Our presentation tonight is going to be a little bit more detailed than what it might otherwise be, not only because of the number of people that we knew would be here tonight to provide as much information as we can.
Nance, can I interrupt for 1 second, please? Folks, could you please turn off your cell phones while the chairman was giving his remarks? I heard him going off several times, and there's phone conversations going on in the audience while staff's trying to present their case. So please, turn off your phones, put them on silent, refrain from use. If you have to use your phone, go out in the hallway. Thank you.
We're going to go through the presentation. It follows very closely along with the staff report that was in your packet. And with that, I'll start with a context plan, just to let everybody know geographically where this is located within the southern portion of the city. On your screen, you will see where downtown is in the upper left-hand corner. You'll see Lago Vista, which is directly north of the Serenity Landing project. You'll see Broken Arrow, which is northeast of the Serenity Landing project. We'll walk directly east, and then Oak Creek, just as kind of landmarks around the project to help get yourself oriented with where we are. This is what the property looked like in 2005. This was a farm, vacant, obviously, except for the farming operations that were there. In 2007, the Fox Hollow subdivision, based on Resolution 07267 and Ordinance 07715, was approved establishing the development of the Fox Hollow subdivision. It included 229 single-family detached, 96 attached homes. It included 32 industrial business units, as well as plus or minus 4 acres of commercial. That includes the church that currently exists there on site. Development did start, and in fact, if you look at this picture, this is the earthwork and mass grading that had already begun at Fox Hollow by 2008. A lot of the commercial areas were mass graded. The townhome sections that were kind of what looked like eights over in the kind of lower left-hand area, those were already mass graded out. The retention ponds that you see on the screen were mass graded, or were built and were functioning. The northern portion of the homes was mass graded out, at least the western portion of that section. And then the far east portion of the property was also mass graded, and they were starting to cut in roads for the kind of the interior of the subdivision when the recession hit. And like so many developments across the country, when the recession hit, lots of projects went underwater and they couldn't be supported anymore. And the same was the case with Fox Hollow. To that end, the lines that you see on your screen that are red, the green ones, the purple ones, some of the dashed lines, those are all existing utilities that were installed. Those were installed along with Geneva Street and Fox Hollow Drive. Geneva Street is up by the label of Unit 1. That currently comes in off of Bruce Road. It goes to a traffic circle that is right by kind of the middle of the screen where it says Unit 1, and then it goes west on Fox Hollow Drive over to Brick Street, but does not connect with Brick Street. It only links into the church. And so that church has been using Geneva and Fox Hollow to get to their facility since 2008. I believe that they opened in 2009, 2010 when construction ended there. But everything else is currently in place. All that work is already in the ground and was established at the time that the Fox Hollow project began construction. In 2011, a new proposal from new owners came through as Hidden Lakes subdivision. This was approved as Ordinance 2011-9024. This one had age-restricted housing, medical, nursing home proposal. It had 150 senior apartments, 87 single-family senior detached homes, 344 senior single-family attached homes. It had a medical office building where that O2 note is on the plan. It had plus or minus 6 acres of commercial, again, including the church property, but development never began. Whether that was because of financial reasons or whatever, the development never started, and so it still never moved past the mass grading and the construction work that was happening as a result of Fox Hollow. In 2018, A new proposal for the project came through as Serenity Landing subdivision. It included 318 apartments, 180 single-family detached homes, 160 single-family attached homes, 21 acres plus or minus of commercial, but the concept plan was withdrawn ultimately. Whoops, sorry. And then in 2021, the Serenity Landing subdivision was submitted as a concept plan. It included 288 apartments, 222 single-family detached, 134 single-family attached homes. This concept plan was approved. It was extended in 2022, but expired because the development partner had not been identified yet, and they had run out of extensions. So here we are today. This is what the property looks like today in 2025. This is an aerial photo of the site. You can still see that all the retention ponds are still in place. Geneva and Fox Hollow Drives are both still in place, although failing. All the mass grading is still in place. You can see the topsoil storage along Oak Avenue. Those are those plus or minus 20-foot tall mounds that stretch along Oak Avenue. That is where all the topsoil that was stripped off of the site was piled up. And then a comparison in the upper right-hand corner to the current proposal, which, as you can see, relatively matches with what was started construction back in 2008. This is the current proposal before you this evening. This is Serenity Landing. It is composed of 212 single-family detached homes, 181 single-family attached homes, 240 apartments, and a 1.78 acre commercial site. And the church is obviously already existing, so that commercial parcel is not included in those numbers. There are 4 units, what are called units. The Unit 1 is the northernmost section. That is 67 detached single-family homes and the 5-acre park. Unit 2 is over on the west. That is the apartment and the commercial parcel. Unit 3A is the western portion of the townhomes, 117 attached townhomes. And then Unit 3B, which is directly to its east, is 64 attached single-family homes. And then Unit 4A, which is to the east, has 73 detached single-family homes. And then finally, Unit 4B, which is the furthest to the east, is 72 detached single-family homes. The phases, Phase 1 is outlined in red on your screen. It would incorporate the 67 homes in Unit 1 and the 117 attached homes in Unit 3A, as well as the park. One back. Just to go through kind of one of the things that we always do is to compare a plan to our design guidelines that the council and the Plan Commission has adopted and recommended for approval a number of years ago. And so we go through those to make sure that what we're proposing is at least, or what we're presenting is at least aligning with those. First one is related to housing. Most of the areas are cluster design. There's 6 distinct neighborhoods, somewhat aligned with the units that were shown on the previous slide. There are short walkable blocks throughout Serenity. That basically is in essence saying that, you know, I can go out of my home and be able to walk around the block in a reasonable amount so that we don't have long blocks with no crossings in between, whether pedestrian or vehicular, to make sure that the community is walkable. And it has a variety of housing types. We have detached single-family at various lot and home sizes. We have townhomes as well as we have apartments. Related to open space, this is a conservation approach, conservation design approach. 80 acres of open space is preserved on this plan. All of the green that you see on it, and I think I highlighted it, all the green that you see on the plan is a part of that conservation design open space area. It well exceeds our standards that we have with the code. There are active and passive recreation areas throughout the site. It includes the 5-acre centrally located public park, fishing opportunities, bird watching opportunities, as well as smaller neighborhood playgrounds, both mixed in within the different neighborhoods that they reside in. Those purple dots on your screen, or purple circles on your screen, are where some of those activities are focused at. And then there is walkability, plus or minus 4 miles of bike paths and plus or minus 8 miles of sidewalks. The red that popped up on your screen is the location of all the bike paths that are in the community. All the sidewalks would be on both sides of the street as it goes through the community as well. From a landscape standpoint, lots of naturalized areas around the ponds and the creeks. Highlight in green on your screen. That's where we focused all the naturalized areas. The dense landscape buffer is along the south property line. That buffer spans between 60 to 90 feet wide. A sample snippet of the plants or the planting plan that is proposed for that buffer is shown in the purple box directly underneath the dense landscape buffer label. And then proposed zoning. So they are proposing R1 zoning to the far east, R2 zoning in the middle section, R3 zoning kind of in the center west, and then R4 zoning in the west, and then C2 zoning for the commercial site that is along Briggs Street. This is our current zoning plan. So this defines what a property owner's rights are. To the east, there is R1. In the middle, there is R2. There is both office or heavy office as well as R3 zoning, kind of in the middle west portion, and then C3 zoning, highway commercial, along the far west portion of it. And just to do an overlay of it, this is an overlay of what is being requested versus what our code has, our zoning map currently has documented for the property owner's property rights. They are requesting a couple modifications from our zoning code. The first one is in the R1 zoned areas of the plan, specific to Unit 4B. It is a reduction from 30 feet to 25 feet for the front yard setback. That is something that's consistent with a reduction that we have done on other recent neighborhoods, such as Sadie Ridge, Silo Bend, and a couple of the other ones. They have an increase in the maximum lot coverage from 30% to 45%. And what we have found is that typically our homeowners today are building gazebos and sheds and many things pretty quickly after they occupy the house. So in order to accommodate some of that, we're recommending, or they're requesting, that they increase the maximum lot coverage of that. In the R2 zoned townhome areas of the plan, which is Unit 3B, they're requesting an increase in the maximum lot coverage from 30% to 75%, and an increase in the maximum impervious coverage from 45% to 95%, and then the same request in the R3 zone townhome. Now there's a unique characteristic about townhome platting that makes these numbers probably stand out to you, and we've talked about this on other townhome projects. What I show on the screen is an example of what I'm talking about. To use the graphic to the far right as an initial conversation point, that is showing a plan of 4 townhomes. I have circled what would be the smallest privately owned lot in those townhomes. And the challenge that we find ourselves when you try and regulate a townhome and how they are platted with a typical single-family detached home, you find that the lot areas are significantly smaller than what you find on a detached home. And so in that example on the right, you see 4 townhomes connected together, sharing party walls amongst 3 different party walls. In the, there is the orange there. The orange would represent what is lot or impervious area. That is the house itself, patios, a pool, other things like that that would be a part of something that creates an impervious area on a property. The hatched area is basically the lot coverage number, and that hatched area is basically just the building itself. So in that graphic, you'll see the squares kind of popping out the top of each one of those units. That's representative of a patio. So if they were going to put a patio, that would count as a part of their impervious surface. That's just to give you an example. And the reason why this occurs is shown by the left graphic. So this is a snippet from the site plan for Serenity Landing tonight. The red lines show where the actual deeded property lots will be located. And very similarly, they divide on the party wall so that, as an example, that upper left red dashed box will have 5 individual property lines in between it that run on the party wall between the units. So each unit, if you own the end unit of that, you own your space plus about 5 feet outside of one wall, 10 feet outside of one wall, and 5 feet outside of another wall, as opposed to a single-family detached, which a lot of our zoning code is related to, where you could own 30 feet out the front garage all the way to the street right away in the sidewalk. You could own 50 feet out to the back property line that joins with your neighbor's property line, and you could own anywhere between 6+ feet to the sides of that where you join with the property. So there is a very distinct difference with how townhomes are platted that creates some heartache for how we bulk regulate them. And you have on your docket tonight another case related to text amendments that city staff is proposing to try and resolve this, because this has become an issue on nearly everybody that has tried to plat townhomes recently. Sadie Ridge has this issue, Silo Bend has this issue, Oak Valley. Name your favorite townhome subdivision, and the changes in platting practice have created a little bit of a disconnect for bulk standards. And so the reason why that impervious number jumps so much is that you have very little space to actually do anything with in your property ownership for a townhome. So in essence, you have 10 feet outside the back, which means that the minute you put a 10-foot by 10-foot patio outside, which, as probably many people have, you know that's relatively small, you've almost filled your entire lot. And so that's why that request to go up to 95% is what it is. It is not that they are filling an entire, what people would normally think of as a regular single-family lot. It is simply a function of the platting. And the way to look at that, again, on the left graphic, is all of the green is open space. That is commonly owned open space that the HOA maintains. And that's really the reason for the difference in platting, is that the HOA, who does general maintenance over all the landscape, general maintenance over the grass cutting, general maintenance over driveway replacements or driveway maintenance, they need to have ownership over those areas so that they're not needing to ask permission for every single person that they want to come in and shovel their sidewalk or resurface their driveway or trim the shrubs or cut the grass. So that is the reason why those numbers seem like they are more significantly out of whack than what some might think that they should be. The architecture for Phase 1 only, that is the only thing before you tonight, is the Phase 1 architecture. A couple key components as they relate to the city's design guidelines are an increased roof pitch with a minimum 612, roof overhangs 12-inch minimum, windows with 4-inch trim and individual panes were appropriate for the home style, 5-inch lap siding were appropriate for the home style, 3-inch masonry water table and the masonry wrap column bases in the base models. And then they can always add more than that as the options, and they select elevations, a variety of different gable treatments, and higher quality garage doors with raised panels and windows appropriate to the architectural style of the home. These are 3 example images. The applicant's presentation will review the other images that are there. They represent both a 2-story as well as a 1-story product. I will say they have 9 different models that they are proposing for this with 5 different elevations each. and a whole variety of different colors and trims and masonry types within those. So all told, there could be 45 different elevation, color, and masonry appearances. And with only 67 homes to cover that across, it will provide the city with a significant amount of housing type diversity. This is a graphic, and I apologize that the information is a little bit small on the screen, but this is a graphic that shows basically the material list, as well as some of the drawings that were submitted as a part of the architectural submittal related to the building itself. You can see on some of those how they use the shake and the shake siding as accents, depending on the style of the home. Some use board and batten, some use masonry and decorative columns on the front porch, and all of them have the gable treatments and the window treatments that we requested. Some of them have shutters, some of them don't, depending on the style of the home again. But in general, these are the information, again, for phase one only. These are the townhomes. They have two different varying gable treatments with multiple color and material choices to be included. The applicant will go over these in a little bit more detail than what we have tonight, or for the staff report. Our findings of fact. Now, this was the important segment. We covered a lot of this at our last Plan and Zoning Commission meeting related to the variance, and so I want to go through these in as much detail as I can to make sure that you have all the information that you need. The first standard is that the proposed building or use at the particular location requested is necessary or desirable to provide a service or a facility in the public interest and will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or community. Four points that were summarizing what was in your packet. There is a variety of for sale and rental opportunities in the face of a significant need, housing need, across the country, but also in our region. There has been little development in this area of town. It can help balance the other areas while being closer to utilities than places to the east that we have extended to. It is sensitive to surrounding areas via extensive open space and large buffers. The commercial opportunity that does not exist today for a significant distance around this site. Oops. The second standard is not having a substantial adverse effect upon the adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, utility facilities, other matters affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. The first point on here is that it was already planned and had approved and had begun construction 18 years ago. It had the unfinished mass grading, topsoil mounds, the utilities, and a few private but failing roads in place. There is sufficient capacity as available in both the water and sanitary system. This was actually planned as a part of the 2007 system when we did that study, and it has since been also included in all of the updates since, knowing that because it had the zoning already in place, that there could be something that goes there in the future, so we have always included that in our capacity studies. Then third, the development is improving all four surrounding public streets with left turn lanes, new surfacing, and a potential future light at Oak and Briggs. The third standard, the proposed building or use will be designed, arranged, operated so as to permit the development and use of neighboring property in accordance with the applicable district regulations. The properties to the east are already residential and the developments are complete. The properties to the south can be developed as they are within their current zoning or with a change. Properties to the west can be developed as they are or seek commercial designation with a new customer base. Properties to the north are already zoned and annexed as an unbuilt extension of Lago Vista. That is what was historically known as phases 3 and 4 of Lago Vista. That is the land that goes from Bruce Road up to Lago Vista Boulevard. That was always planned to be an extension of Lago Vista south to Bruce. The fourth standard, in what respects the proposed plan is or is not consistent with the stated purpose of the plan development regulations. A plan development is intended to provide an orderly arrangement of buildings and land uses and for the proper location of all types of uses. It follows the applicable site planning components of the city's design guidelines, including shorter street segments, consistent entry features for the new neighborhoods, multiple entrances to help disperse traffic, dissimilar to what we have with Broken Arrow and Lago Vista, where we have entire mile blocks of our community with no internal streets to be able to disperse that traffic, trails throughout, centralized accessible parks, naturalized detention areas, and significant densely landscaped buffer areas. Next standard is the extent to which the proposed plan departs from zoning and subdivision regulations otherwise applicable to the subject property, including but not limited to the density, dimension, area, bulk, and use, and the reasons why such departures are or are not in the public interest. The modification requests are reasonable, consistent with past approvals that have been given by the City Council and this Commission. They are few in number compared to what has been requested in the past, and ultimately 4 of them are difficult to quantify with our existing bulk regulations because of the platting considerations I went over earlier related to townhomes. They are consistent with the public interest decisions prior, and the reason staff is recommending changes to the attached single-family bulk regulations later in this meeting. The extent to which the proposed plan meets the requirements and standards of the plan development regulations. There are 4 standards. The first one is modifications from district regulations. The second is design standards. The third is standards for open space, and the fourth is signage. The first piece is few modifications that have not already been deemed acceptable in other projects. The site plan follows many of the design guideline requirements that I suggested earlier, and the architecture is consistent with the intent of our exterior material standards and design guidelines. The third item, all open space will either be conveyed to the Park District or maintained by the Homeowners Association, with the park being a regional destination given the absence of other formal parks in the area. And then last, the neighborhood entry monuments are consistent across the development and more extensive than what the baseline requirement is for the city's sign code. The next standard is that the physical design of the proposed plan development and the manner in which the design does or does not make adequate provision for public services, provide adequate control over vehicular traffic, provide for and protect designated planned open space in schools, and further the amenities of light and air, recreation, and visual enjoyment. The site is already connected to the utility system and was included in planning for the overall city sanitary capacity studies and our water studies. The center turn lanes are planned on Briggs, Bruce, Farrell, a full resurfacing of Oak and reconstruction of Briggs. A future signal, if warranted, is requested by the county at Oak and Briggs. Just as a little further background on that, the applicant will be required after the completion of each phase to redo their traffic study that they have already currently completed to check on the warrants to see if the warrants are met for that Oak and Briggs intersection. Last, LTHS and LTPD have provided letters of support for the project based on their student forecasts and the park needs. And Fairmont is currently studying their capital and operational impacts. I think that Dr. Daniels will be speaking later this evening. The compatibility of the proposed plan development with the adjacent properties and neighborhood. A substantially similar development was approved in 2007 and subsequently started construction, with a new substantially similar development approved in 2011, but both projects stopped due to things beyond their control. All of the conditions in existence then are still the same as they are now. Second item is staff has worked extensively with the applicant based on past proposal comments from neighbors to integrate more dense landscaping and buffering, lighting provisions, preserving more open space, removing the industrial uses, and adding bike paths along the exterior public streets, as well as what are found interior to the site. The desirability of the proposed plan development to the physical development and economic well-being of the entire community. Development of this site will revive an abandoned site that has construction started, but many parts starting to fail, including the utilities as well as the streets, Geneva and Fox Hollow Drives. The clay surface soils, because the topsoil was stripped off that site, are still currently in place. There is no connection to Briggs for the existing church that has waited for 18 years to be able to connect. The retention ponds need care, and the partial utilities in place, and the general condition of numerous invasive plants and trees that are currently occupying the site as volunteers. The development of this site, providing a new base of customers, could begin an additional South Lockport commercial that is a bridge from East Joliet to Lockport's commercial areas and provide much needed services in the area. And lastly, the proposed development plan conformity with the recommendations of the comprehensive plan of the city. The proposal is very consistent with the comprehensive plan. The graphic is on the lower portion of the screen. The recommended comprehensive plan densities of 1.6 to 2.5 units per acre on the east end of the property, that is in the kind of the lighter yellow within the bright yellow box. The 2.6 to 3.5 and 3.6 to 6 units per acre in the central areas of the site, as well as the commercial to the west. The overall density of the proposed Serenity Landing project is 3.45 units per acre and is in alignment with the comprehensive plan. This is a site plan, rendered site plan of the project, and I'm going to turn the mic over to the applicant. But before I do that, I'll have this on after the applicant is over. But up on your screen is, should the commission find the proposed plan development acceptable, the following motions would be suggested. It is a motion to adopt staff's findings and recommend approval of the special use permit for a plan development with the rezonings, and a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plat, the preliminary development plans, the final development plans and plat for phase 1, which are units 1 and 3A, subject to the following conditions: that all the remaining items from engineering review number 3 memo shall be addressed prior to the December 3rd committee of the whole meeting. Those, we always like to have all the drawings absolutely buttoned up, but I think as somebody online made the comment that the package is over 400 pages long, there are details of misspellings, and City of Lockport is called Village of Lockport. We always want to try and make those things are buttoned up, so the applicant has committed to doing a number of those small detailed pieces before committee of the whole. They don't impact the review that you have tonight. All the information that is subject to your review and important to your review is captured within the packet that you have. So with that, I will turn it over to our applicant. And actually, if you just want to tell me when to advance, give me the wink or the nod, I'll go ahead and advance it for you.
Or I'll be more than happy to click it.
I can do it for you if you
All
want.
right, thank you. Yes, we'll
Yep.
have you do that. Thank you, Lance. Good evening. My name is Mike Shoppy. I'm with Shoppy Design Associates. We're the planners and landscape architects for the Serenity Landing project. And with me also tonight are other members of our development team that I'd like to introduce to you. First, we have Jim Hughes. Jim is with Next Generation. Next Generation is here on behalf of the ownership of the property, which is Serenity Landing LLC. Also with us is Paul Leader. Paul is with RWG Engineering. They're our civil engineers for the project. And we have Joe Ballesteri with NVR Homes. NVR Homes will be the company who is building the residential project or product for us. And then we also have my colleague, Michelle Wilson. She's our landscape architect with Shoppy Design Associates. Just to reiterate the request, and I know it's a little complicated because some of the motions will deal with the entire property, the entire 183 acres. Some of the motions are only going to be dealing with phase 1. So to reiterate that, and we'll summarize it one more time because it is important. We're here tonight for your consideration on a recommendation for approval for the special use permit for the plan development. That's one. The second would be the zoning, the R1, the R2, the R3, and the R4, those residential classifications, and our C2, our commercial district zoning for that commercial lot along Briggs. The third component would be for the preliminary subdivision plat and preliminary development plan approval Now, that would be, again, for the entire property, the entire 183 acres. And then lastly, the final development plan approval and the final plat approval for what Lance has described as Phase 1. That's our Unit 1 and 3A. So you click to the next. Lance did a good job of reviewing all the details in the plans, and it's certainly going to save us time in our description of the project. But there's just a few other components that we'd like to add relative to the plan, to the engineering and the architecture, and to the open space that we will go through briefly as part of our presentation. The one thing we wanted to point out on this image, the plan itself, this is the proposed plan, is the similarity that this plan has to the previous concept plan that was approved in 2021, then extended to 2023. The land uses are essentially in the same location, the same types. You can see the light yellow is our single-family lots. We have as the core of our project that 5-acre park, a little better than 5-acre park in the middle. The townhomes that are below that and to the left of that park, and then the apartments to the left of that with a small commercial area. All of those land uses are the same land uses that were in that concept plan. And that concept plan is essentially the basis for which we prepared these final development plans that we're looking at tonight. Some of the key components to that we gleaned out of that 2021 and 2023 plan is the preservation of the Fraction Run Creek corridor, which we're implementing here, the additional screening that we have particularly along Oak Street, that screening that is higher and more dense than what the city code requires, and the interconnectivity that the project has amongst the neighborhoods with their sidewalk system, along the open space corridors with their trails, and on the perimeter with the path system on the perimeter. We have road improvements that are being made to all roads that are that surround the property, and we have that additional screening down on the south end as well that we're implementing. So those are some more highlights on the plan. So now I think you could click, it's the same plan. We're ready to go on to the next one. So what I'd like to do now is ask Paul Leader to come up, and he'll go through some more of the engineering components of the plan, and then after Paul, we'll have Joe talk about our architecture.
Again, my name is Paul Leader. I'm with RWG Engineering. We are the site civil engineer for the project. Lance, if you could you go to the next slide, please? And then I want to come back to this one. I wanted to focus on the Phase 1 area, which is highlighted on this slide. It pops out a little better than it did on the previous slide. With the Phase 1 improvements, there will be improvements to Bruce Road to the north. That will include widening of Bruce Road to provide left turn lanes into the Serenity Landing project, as well to accommodate a left turn lane for future traffic to Laga Vista to the north, or into the fire station as it now exists. Also, with Phase 1, Briggs Street will be improved, and there are some pretty extensive improvements to Briggs Street. It's being widened for 3 lanes to include left turn lanes, again, into Serenity Landing, plus a right turn lane going into Serenity Landing. It's that 3-lane improvement extends to Oak and south of Oak Avenue to provide left turns for traffic going to the east and to the west at Oak Avenue. With Phase 1, the extension of Fox Hollow, and you could kind of see the little extension of the road that now does not connect to Briggs Street, will be completed, and that connection will be made. Also with Phase 1, this plan doesn't show it very well, but Fox Hollow Drive starts at Briggs, goes east, curves around, and comes back to Oak Avenue. Does not actually connect to Oak Avenue at this time, but it will be connected with Phase 1. Also, with the improvements that were done 17, 18 years ago. Geneva Road going up to the north, as Lance described earlier, and Fox Hollow from Briggs down to Oak were installed, but the only connection was to Bruce Road. Those roads never got their final surface course. They've obviously deteriorated in the last 17, 18 years. Those roads, the existing pavement will be restored, and the final lift will be completed to have, new roads, in those areas, and get a decent access to the church parcel, and the church will get a second connection to Briggs Street. With the improvements to surrounding roads, there will be site lighting at each of the intersections. These are similar to all the street lights within, Lockport. Along Oak Avenue, there's 4 access points, so there will be a light at each of those access locations. And the light level from those new street lights will illuminate the road, but by the time it gets to the south side of the road and to the fence line along the south, the illumination goes to 0. So the lighting from those particular lights will not continue to the south. Farrell Road to the east, again, will have a third lane, or widening to 3 lanes, left turn lanes, both east and west on Cogwin. Oak Avenue will maintain a 2-lane rural section. So I think at that point, Joe?
Well, thank you for having us here. We're excited to be in Lockport. I'm with NVR, Ryan Holmes. I'll keep things pretty high level. Lance did a really good job at explaining how we're going to make sure there's anti-monotony and there's enough choices. NVR is a little different than a lot of the other home builders in the area. We don't like to do spec building. We don't do spec building. We want homeowners to come in, have the opportunity to pick from a variety of different plans, structural options, interior options, and then color choices. So that's one thing that you'll notice that might be a little different, whereas you'll see track and spec builders. With the other builders, we're to be built for future homeowners. So one of the things we wanted to do in Serenity Landing was align with the overall community area. So we brought in our higher end product line. This is our core product, and then we elevated a little bit more by doing stone water tables and upgraded the siding, changed some of the roof pitches, and then a multitude of different plans and color options for each one. So this is our single family product. There'll be 2-story and 1-story. Here's a few more of them. Now this is our townhouse product that we're bringing in. Again, this is our core product. We did a elevated stone water table on it. We did some different roof pitches and different siding options, mixed it up with some shake and some architectural features like the gable and the overhangs there. You want to go through the, there you go.
Thank you, Joe. Another important component that Lance had touched on is the open space and landscaping features of the project. I just wanted to go through some imagery of what those components will be looking like as the project gets developed. That image up on the upper left-hand corner, that would be an example of what we would expect our stormwater basins to look like. The plans indicate naturalized vegetation around the open water areas, and that's the imagery that shows what that will look like. In the center there is a park with playground equipment. We're expecting that type of development within that 5-acre park that's in the middle of the project. That'll, of course, be done by the Park District. And we've got other natural areas, particularly along Fraction Run Creek, that'll be planted with native grasses and maintained as native grasses, and that's the image on the bottom as to what that would look like. Next, Lance. And then that upper image is what we would expect to see as our vegetation matures along the screening along Oak Avenue. With the shade trees, the evergreen trees, they're supplemented with bushes as well that you can't see in that photograph. But that's the image of what we would expect our screening to look like as time goes along. And then, of course, that the trail system that's along the creek and along the perimeter of the property, looking like we have here. The entry monuments on the next slide, we have several of those. We have the top image there is our main entry monument identifying the Serenity Landing project. We'll have 3 of those installed on the property. Those will be at the entrance, our main entrances at Bruce, Farrell, and Oak. And down on the bottom in the lower left-hand corner is a secondary monument. We have one right in, right out access on Oak Avenue, and that secondary monument would be installed at that right in, right out. So those are some of the highlights of the key landscape features that'll be in the project. So in summary, again, our request, we think we've done a good job of laying the property out, taking care of all the issues that are involved, and obviously it's a complicated project and with complicated issues. We're following that concept plan very well, and think we have a very well thought out project. We want to reiterate what we're seeking tonight. Again, the consideration for the recommendation for the approval of the PUD plan, the special permit for the PUD, the rezoning R1, R2, R3, R4, and the C2 commercial district. Thirdly, the preliminary subdivision plat and preliminary development plans. For that would be for the entire site. And then for our phase 1, the approval of that final development plan and final plats, phase 1, including units 1 and 3A. And with that, that will conclude our part of the presentation. And we look forward to any comments, questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your team, Michelle and Jim and Paul and Joe. And Lance and Alyssa, quite thorough. Thank you for your hard work.
Yep.
With that, I would like to open the first round of questioning to our commissioners. Do you have any specific issues you'd like more clarity on, more understanding, anything to re-review, any specific items you need more information on?
The only thing that I had a question on is what is the trigger for the traffic study after each phase of the project is complete?
So once each phase is complete, they are required by annexation agreement to update their traffic study. So once phase 1 is complete, they'll update it. Once phase 2 is complete, they'll update that. Kind of like Silo Bend had 3 phases. They typically don't jump around, but the understanding is that there is an update that occurs after each phase, regardless of whether it would be start at 1 and then we all of a sudden go to 4, and then go back to 3 or whatever it is. They would still be required to update it after each phase to recognize whatever the traffic being generated is at that time. However, I do want to note that the traffic study currently did look at future conditions with the entire development developed. The checks after each phase is just simply a back check on that work.
Any other questions? I do have one. Just want to confirm, along the south edge of the property, along Oak, it appears there is a berm there with landscaping on it. Is there a slight elevated piece to that landscaping element along Oak?
Yes, in addition to the landscaping that you see on the plan, yes, there is a small berm that goes from the right-of-way line inward towards the buildings.
Okay.
You're correct.
And is there also a 10-foot wide path all along Oak? Did I see that, read that correctly? There's a 10-foot wide path from,
Paul, could you go to the?
yeah, if you could go, sorry.
Yes, there is a 10-foot bike path to the north side of Oak. The berm is along a good portion of that area. All areas does not have a berm because of, site grading and everything. Some areas actually slope away.
Sure, okay. Thank you. And I would just say, regarding the architecture of the homes, very nice. Appreciate the 45 potential options in the homes. I would say that the townhomes, from an architectural standpoint, have a little room for improvement, but won't sway my vote one way or another on that topic. Okay.
I have one quick question. I appreciate all the road improvements that are going around. You may have touched it, and I apologize if I missed it. When will each one of those road improvements happen? Will it be, with the phase one, obviously you can get in and out off of Oak and Bruce. Will those have turn lanes right away? Will it come later? How will the road improvements happen?
Phase one does include the full road improvements to Bruce to the north. It also includes all the improvements to Briggs Street, which, as I mentioned earlier, is very extensive along the west side. I did mention with phase one, there is a connection of Fox Hollow, the existing Fox Hollow, to Oak Avenue. That is just a connection to that street. Oak Avenue is improved with phase two. Farrell Road is improved with phase three.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, last call for your questions. Otherwise, I would open up citizens to be heard, and I would like to thank everyone. You've been very patient, very quiet. Everyone was able to hear the presentation, so thank you. And who has a list? Kathy, where should we start here?
Yeah, I have a list, and I will just read them off to the best of my ability. Kevin Dieterich, first. Everybody can go up to the mic, and that way people can hear their comments up at the mic. These mics are a little bit challenging to work with, so just make sure that you are pointed directly at the mic, just to make sure that it still amplifies the sound.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Pastor Kevin Dieterich. I'm actually the pastor of Cross Point Church, which is in that subdivision. We're the church that is existing there. And our church actually was on 159th Street. And with the 355 extension, the city kind of worked with us to relocate so that could be more for businesses. And so when we moved the church to its current location, we moved there in light of there being housing and subdivision that was to be built around us. We know, obviously, in 2008, the market crashed, and that stopped this from being developed. But honestly, that lack of development has left the church cut off from not only the community that we were supposed to be a part of, but even from Lockport. Very much people see the church, don't know how to get to it. The access from Geneva tells you it's a dead end. As you do make your way back there, everything's overgrown. There's potholes you got to navigate. But then you get back to there, and if you ever do make it back there, you see the church beautifully landscaped, taken well care of and maintained. But many never make it back that far. And so we are dealing with that all the time. On top of that, there's never been the street lights put in. And I left, I think, about 5:45 tonight to come here, and I had to use my brights just to navigate to get out of there, which really impacts us with having people come out there in the evenings. We feel it's a security issue. So our church is certainly going to benefit from seeing this project finally moving forward and developed, and we're excited about it. But I also believe it's good for our neighbors as well. The property, in a way, has become an eyesore. I don't think if you ever are by there, things are overgrown. Sometimes you see that people go back there and dump garbage, and you see a lot of that going on. Sometimes it can be dangerous. I know on the Facebook page in Lockport, just 2 weeks ago, neighbors were complaining that people were firing guns and bullets were flying by their barns and things. And so everyone's upset about that, but that goes away when there's housing development. We've had multiple times of property damage ourselves, especially with four-wheelers tearing up our property and going through that. It happened last fall, and we had to spend a lot of money on fixing that. It's already happened again this year. Again, that goes away, and I'm just excited about this because when the church was built here, there was really great opportunities. We still don't have that connection to Briggs, but I'm really excited about that happening because it really opens up the opportunity for us to be part of Lockport a lot better. So that's all I would have to share. I'm thankful to the city for working with us and for the new developer who's got this plan.
Thank you, Pastor Mike.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of order. Do you want to make sure that we note the time limit, or did we already talk about that per comment?
Yes.
Kevin was
5-minute time limit.
Okay, perfect. Alyssa is going to kind of track that, and we'll let people know when we're about a minute out from that 5-minute time limit in case it does go to that point. Next on the list is Miriam Salvador. And again, I apologize if I butcher somebody's name or something like that. It's not intentional. It's just limited ability to read it.
Good evening. Like he said again, my name is Miriam Salvador, and I just want to read you a little bit. I live on the south side of Oak, right in the middle of all this development that is going to be. Hopefully not too crowded like it is there. Your neighbor includes ranchers, farmers with long-established lifestyle. Within 1 and 2 miles, about 800 horses. 70% of owners are Hispanic speaking. Horses ownership involves 10 family and friends on a regular basis. 30 of owner horses are English speaking. Horses ownership involves 5 family friends on a regular basis. On annual basis, horses activities brings about 25 owners, trainers, veterinaries. I'm sorry, I lost in here. Farriers and spectators to the area. About 10,000 in maintenance cost per year and $850 in tax revenues. For the 1 and 2 mile area around the proposed development, equine activities add more than $8 million to the local economy. The state and local taxes revenue amount to about $680,000. Feed, fuel, trailers, town vehicles, tractors, clothing, bed farriers, and on other services, insurance, utility, and many other expenses. Local crop. Farmers also contribute to the state national economy, mainly through hay, corn. Thank you again.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dr. Daniel Daniels.
Good evening. My name is Tamala Daniels. I'm the superintendent at Fairmont School District 89. I'm joined by the board president, Ken Shepherd. We have prepared a statement to read tonight. Fairmont School District 89 recognizes the importance of community growth and development. We value efforts that strengthen our community and bring new families into the area. However, the district must also carefully consider the potential impact of any new residential developments on our educational resources and long-term financial stability. The proposed subdivision is anticipated to add more than 150 students to our district. While we welcome new families, such an enrollment increase presents significant challenges for a district of our size. At this time, the district does not have sufficient data regarding the financial implications or the potential costs associated with accommodating this growth. Fairmont School District 89 currently operates with limited revenue streams, primarily residential, and maintains 2 existing bonds, which will not expire until 2029 and 2039. Given the district's constrained ability to seek additional local funding through referenda, along with unpredictable state and federal funding, any major increase in student population will create substantial financial strain. Potential impacts include, but are not limited to, the need for facility expansion or classroom additions to ensure safe and effective learning environments. Increased transportation and personnel requirements due to an Illinois school code that mandates for students living more than 1.5 miles from school to be transported. Possible increases in special education services and associated costs, which could be specialized services in and outside of the district, also specialized transportation. Staffing adjustments that could result in larger class sizes or necessitate contract renegotiations and additional operational costs in areas such as materials, technology, and supportive services. While the district acknowledges that it will receive impact fees and additional property tax revenue over time as the subdivision develops, it is also important to note that the need to educate students will be immediate, whereas the revenue will be realized gradually. Also, the impact fees expected amount of slightly over $1.3 million after the full build-out does not go very far in today's economy in the area of school construction or renovations. While the district acknowledges that, again, furthermore, the addition of more than 600 new housing units would directly influence the district's overall equalized assessed valuation, but this won't enable significant capital projects. Such changes could result in increased property taxes for existing residents, particularly affecting our senior community, where many of those 55 and older residents are widowed and many live on fixed incomes, as well as our low-income families, which make up approximately 98% of our school district. With this, the district remains mindful of how any tax implications may impact our valued members of our community. Fairmont School District remains committed to transparency, fiscal responsibility, and the continued pursuit of high-quality educational opportunities for all students. Before any new developments proceeds, we believe a comprehensive analysis of the educational, financial, and community impact is necessary to ensure sustainable growth that benefits all of our residents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Daniels.
The next speaker is Gail Wyatt, and coming up next is Sue Ann Curtis, just so you can kind of prepare yourself.
Good evening. My name is Gail Wyatt, and I have lived out in this area for a very long time. And I find it incredible that the engineers and all of those that design the landscaping and whatever have not taken into consideration all of those horse farms that are on the south side of Oak Avenue. Currently, as Miriam said, there's approximately 800 horses in a 2-mile radius. Now, some of those people do ride down the road because they connect to the trails which are on Farrell Road. And right now it's a 2-lane road, but I find it incredible that the engineers and those of Lockport City have not talked to any of the residents. I mean, you've offered meetings, but 800 horses and not to take those into consideration is incredible. There's a dollar value connected. Now, again, I live in Orland, but I have my horses boarded in Lockport. I also shop in Lockport more than I do in Orland. I have a niece that lives in the Oak subdivision that's concerned about this, but she wasn't able to come tonight. But I shop here. I go to the restaurants here. And as Miriam said, the farmers provide the hay for our horses. Now, this has been a horse community for a long time. So I don't understand. It seems like you want to force the horses out of this area, and I understand that there's a need for housing, but there's also a right way to do it. And I just don't believe that you've given the people that have ranches on the south side of Oak Avenue a fair shake. Thank you. Please consider that.
Thank you, Gail.
Sue Ann Curtis and Bridget Peel after that.
Hi, my name is Dr. Sue Ann Curtis. I've lived in the area for 45 years. I'm an anthropologist. And one thing I've done, I've studied different cultural groups and behavior and cultural interests and what's important to the people that live there and why they live there. So what's starting to be done, what's starting to be proposed, really comes right up the line of projects I've studied in the past. And I'm having problems with this. If you look at the demographics, you have a large Spanish-speaking population. But the sign you put up, it's all in English. You also need to include how they live. It's very different culturally because the Spanish families go way back to what happens in South America, Mexico, and it comes from Spain. Families, and it's just the mom and the dad and the kids, which are typical in a lot of English-speaking families, encompasses a large group of people. That's how Miriam came up with her numbers. And then you add to it horses. In Spain, that is a major status symbol. It's a major cultural interest, and it really shows your status, your standard, and what you're all about. The same things happened when people moved from Spain to South America and on here. They have the same value system. So horses aren't something you buy and sell and hey, maybe you grow up and go to college and sell it. They're part of their family. And even people I've interviewed, that horses are expensive to keep. We've talked about that. The whole family will go out and try to earn enough money to provide for the horse. As long as I have lived there, I've never seen a skinny horse. I've never seen a dirty horse. They're all well fed and they're well cared for. We also have Spanish-speaking people. We've discussed that. We have English-speaking people. And typically, we found that it's 4 to 5 friends visit a girl that owns a horse and speaks Spanish or speaks English in her home. And what's interesting, horses can be a thing, but often young girls, and I'm sure you've looked at books and you've seen on TV, they're very compassionate and driven to horses, even if they don't own one. They read about them, go to movies about them. And when they grow up, those that choose to have a horse, it's very critical to them psychologically. So we have two groups of people. They live in the area, and as Miriam pointed out, we're talking people that come to visit. We're talking about 20 to 30,000 people come into this 0 to 2 mile area because of the horse community. And what you're proposing can be very detrimental to the health of a horse. It can actually kill a horse. So you shine on a horse from these, oh, you think that's what people want. We don't want it on our side of the road. And you shine light in windows of horses or on them all the time, they develop hormonal problems. Think of it yourself. If you had dogs and cats, they get furry in the winter and they shed in the spring. It's driven by light and days and nights and how it changes over the year. That's important to horses. So you think lights are great. It screws them up.
You're at 4 minutes.
Okay, and on that, I'm just about done. So we've talked about all of this, and you need to be aware of who you're hurting and an industry that is very viable financially. And Lockport is benefiting from this financially as it now stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue Ann.
I also want to note, because I've gotten a couple cards, if I could talk, if you signed up on this sheet, you were already on it. So we don't need to add. I know that some of you were seeing these cards and maybe worrying that you weren't going to be able to speak. We ran out of cards, so that's why we put this sheet out. So if you signed up on this, you're already on the list.
Good evening. My name is Bridget Peel. I'm a veterinarian and board-certified equine surgeon currently employed at Premier Equine Veterinary Services on Bruce Road. Here to discuss the health impact to the horse population regarding this development. As a diplomat of the American College of Veterinary Surgeons, I am considered an expert in my field. I am one of less than 600 people in the country specialized in equine surgery, one of 8 in the state of Illinois, and one of 3 in the state of Illinois outside of the University of Illinois' Veterinary Teaching Hospital. I grew up in Lockport, and after having worked in other states, I've returned after having been involved in the local horse community for nearly my entire life and knew the need for specialized veterinary services in this area. Our practice not only serves the horses of Lockport Township, but we also have a haul-in facility that brings clients from all over the state, as well as Indiana and Wisconsin. Horse owners are often drawn to practices in more rural areas due to the ease of access with a horse trailer and decreased vehicular congestion. Clients frequently cite dislike for having to drive through Champaign, Madison, or West Lafayette to go to one of the university hospitals. When clients bring a horse to the clinic, they may be in this area for several hours, up to multiple consecutive days while their horse has a procedure performed or is hospitalized for medical treatment. This clientele brings increased revenue to local establishments, including restaurants, coffee houses, fuel stations, hotels, and automotive stores. With the proposed Serenity Landing development, the area surrounding our clinic will immediately be impacted by increased traffic. Not only increased congestion in general, but the higher density nature of this development appeals to a demographic group unaware of the nuances of hauling horses and the slower braking and acceleration that it needs to occur with a trailer. This can lead to tailgating and impulsive driving, opening the potential for increased automotive versus trailer incidents and subsequent horse injury or death. This scenario would have an immediate impact to our referral and hauling caseload. Not only does the increased local traffic raise safety and access concerns, but the light pollution, decreased air quality, and noise pollution will all have a direct negative health impact on local horses. There is an abundance of scientific evidence to show how both light and noise pollution disrupt the normal circadian rhythms in horses and humans. White light from streetlights and outdoor lighting decreases melatonin production, thus altering the body's internal clock. Combined with the increased noise from the commercial and residential dwellings, as well as traffic noise, it's a double whammy to the normal environment that these horses have become accustomed and thrive in. We have a new phenomenon in equine medicine called sleep deprivation. It's characterized by irritability, poor performance, weight loss, and collapse in horses. With the global urban sprawl, more and more farms are being encroached upon by developments, and we are seeing the negative impact from the environmental change on these sensitive prey animals. Where in humans, our norm has become simple ignorance of our biologic needs and utilization of at least until the next development goes in. Aside from sleep deprivation, alterations in normal circadian rhythm contribute to multiple morbidities, including hormonal dysregulation, pregnancy and fertility issues, and impaired immune function. Further, the air quality impact from the initial construction phase, as well as from increased automotive, household, and commercial emissions, will lead to increased respiratory disease in our local horse community. A recent study published in the Journal of Veterinary Internal Medicine showed that horses are 15 times more sensitive to inhaled particulate matter than humans are. This particulate matter causes systemic inflammation and is a known contributor to the development of inflammatory airway disease, similar to COPD in humans. This chronic airway disease can affect horses long after their performance career. Horse exposure times to air pollutants are much longer than the typical human simply because they live outdoors. Racehorses and upper-level performance horses, which we have within the direct community, perform at maximal intensity much more frequently than humans do, suggesting that they experience detrimental effects at lower levels of air pollution than humans. Even marginal changes in air quality can increase inflammation in horses' lungs at a more rapid pace than in humans. From an economic standpoint, the quarter horse racehorses housed in the immediate vicinity of the development should be expected to have increased recovery times following racing, reduced performance and training interruptions, which can lead to higher risks of injury, reduced winning averages, fewer yearly and lifetime starts, lower yearly and lifetime earnings, and shortened career length. Each of these situations will lead to decreased return on investment, decreased cash flow, and decreased overall earnings for owners, trainers, veterinarians, and breeders, which directly impacts funds returning to our local economy. From an empathetic standpoint, years down the line, these horses struggle to breathe on a daily basis until their suffering is seized with humane euthanasia. During the summer months, we see multiple horses on a weekly, sometimes daily basis in need of breathing treatments, some located on farms directly adjacent to the planned development. With the current climate we live in and frequent air quality alert days, further decline in local air quality will be catastrophic for these horses. These losses, both economic and emotional, incurred by the local equine industry far outweigh any benefits. Thank you.
Next is Mike Heiner, or Heineck, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And then next is Gary Albright.
I'll make mine quick. Just had a couple concerns that weren't addressed. The park that's in the middle is only about five acres in comparison to Willow Walk, which has about a 12-acre park, and Oak Creek, which has just shy of a 5-acre park. For a development that's planned with a bunch of townhouses and apartments, this seems a little undersized. I know the developer commented that about 80 acres or 43% was open space. I think a lot of that takes into consideration fraction run, which presumably is where a lot of the stormwater is going to be directed. I also didn't see, with stormwater being a concern in Lockport, according to the internet, so it must be true, I would like to see some consideration given to maybe some permeable surfaces in particularly the townhouse and apartment section, especially if all the water is going to be directed to fraction run, which drains an area from about Victoria Crossing on the east side of Lockport all the way through Delwood Park. I also didn't see any information in the commissioner's packet online regarding any upgrades to fraction run further downstream to take in any extra water or storm water runoff. I do know that the stormwater issue was addressed in the comments, but it doesn't seem like any development was done downstream to enhance that water runoff. And additionally, some comments in the packet were that it would not increase any traffic flow in the area. I don't know if anybody has driven around Division and Briggs or down Farrell in the afternoon, but it's kind of a gridlock already. There were also comments made that Oak, after the development was finished, Oak would be upgraded in addition to Briggs and Farrell, which is fine. Oak, east of Farrell, has been upgraded upon the completion of Willow Walk and Oak Creek, and that is now a cut-through, which people are zipping through to avoid Route 6 and Bruce and 159th. And I understand the police can't be everywhere. We can't enforce our way out of a traffic problem by having a cop sit over there all the time. So maybe some consideration could be given to some planned traffic calming measures in the area to take into consideration the excess traffic that's going to be a result of the neighborhood. Thanks.
Gary, and then next is Lisa Bizzelli.
Hi, I'm Gary Albright. We live right next to this property. We're actually, it's to our west and to our south. We're probably the most affected by this property. In the last meeting in 2021, Next Generation agreed to put a fencing up along the property. Now they're kind of backing out of that. They're saying that they didn't say that during the last meeting here, so I'm kind of lost in what's going to happen on that. The village planning here never reached out to us as homeowners to see what we would like for berms or anything around our property. We have 40 acres, and now we're going to be surrounded by homes, which I'm not, I'm not against by any means. It's their property. They can do what they want with it. But we should have been kind of brought into this prior to tonight's meeting to say, hey, maybe some wood fencing, some more berms up along our property lines. We have horses also. It's a big impact on us, huge. There's some hay fields that I farm to the back, which is surrounding Landing's property. They're going to put wildflowers or something in it now for people to look at, I guess. I don't know what they're going to do with it. But anyhow, whenever I try to pull in my driveway in my tractor, because I do a lot of farming in the local areas, I've been cut off probably 10, 15 times a year. People pass me on the left as I'm turning the left into my driveway. It's very unsafe, but we're going to add more traffic to two-lane roads. Every road that we have is too small for our area. Anywhere you go, Lockport has not improved the roads. And now you're going to let these guys come in and put a couple turn lanes in. That's not improving the roads. Like the other gentleman said, our roads are all backed up. Everywhere you go, you can't go anywhere. But let's just keep adding more houses. The school district can't handle the kids. What are you going to do? We're going to pay all the extra taxes to bring this in? It's crazy. I mean, you guys really have to look at the impact this is going to do. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing they want to do. I agree 100%. But it's too large for our area. Fairmont can't handle it, and I don't think our community can really handle it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Lisa, and then Tom Foxworth.
Hi, Lisa Bizzelli. I was just making some notes as I was hearing everyone talk today, and I know people have already addressed issue with the amount of traffic that is around this area. Gary is actually my neighbor, and I can tell you that no one pays any attention to the speed limit on Bruce Road, and the thought of more cars on Bruce Road flying down the street does not excite me at all. I cannot tell you how many mailboxes I've put in. I cannot tell you how many car parts I've removed from my front lawn, how many cars have gone into my front lawn, but not only at the risk of vehicle traffic, but also the horse traffic. I know a lot of people have spoken today about the health risk to horses, but I want to talk about the safety of the horses. Whenever I see anyone on a horse coming through, I run out my front door and tell them, please go on my grass, because I've had a rider on a horse get hit in front of my house. The rider, thank God he made it, but the horse did not. The horse was completely split open, and no one was prepared to figure out what to do with that animal until the next day. So just think about that. And, you know, it's not a joke. People go down that street like crazy. I see people on bikes, and I think they've just lost their mind going down that street. The other thing that I wanted to bring for everyone's consideration is there is a rodeo. We sit outside on our deck at night when the rodeo's going. We enjoy the music. It adds to the area. We are not, by the way, horse owners, but we enjoy listening to the music, and, you know, it's just part of our evening. And I know when the subdivisions that were built around Big Run Wolf Ranch, a lot of people, after they moved in, were complaining about the Wolf Ranch and the howling at night. And I think that's something that we should take into consideration. People that are moving into the area cannot then say, oh, we want the rodeo shut down. Oh, we want this done. They're moving into our neighborhood. I think the development, you guys have done a great job, the green space, but residents have to be made aware there's a rodeo somehow, so this way there's no complaints about that later. And a question about the apartments, is that going to be addressed in a later meeting? Because I saw information on the single-family homes, the townhomes, but there's nothing on the apartments.
So the architecture is only for phase one. The subsequent phases will have their own architectural approvals as those start to go up.
Okay.
But as far as the land use, the apartments are what
Okay.
is being proposed.
And then one separate note, so I was at the meeting for the 2007, 2008 subdivision. I have not received any notice of any other meeting except this one. Is there a way to make sure that the residents know what is going on?
So there are two ways that the state law requires that we notice people. One is to have signs on the property. There were 3 signs that were placed on the property at various intersections. And then homeowners, or property owners, I should say, within 250 feet of the property edges, get a letter. That should have come out for this one. And if you weren't on that,
Technically, I'm not within 250 feet.
Right.
Because there's 40 acres between me and this development, so somehow I made it onto this list. I don't always drive that direction, so
I mean, the state law is 250 feet. If you're not within 250 feet, state doesn't require that it be noticed. We obviously hope that people talk about it with their friends, like many other subdivisions do. But that's the legal requirement for the public notice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Tom Foxworth. I have lived in Lockport since 2003. I live in Willow Walk subdivision. I agree with many of the points that have been made so far today, even though I understand the frustration the preacher had mentioned earlier about kind of being landlocked away from the rest of Lockport. And I understand exactly what he's talking about. I have driven through to go to a function at that church before, and yes, it's kind of driving through a desolate wasteland trying to get there. But my concerns are manifold. The first being that there are currently over 1,600 homes being built in Lockport right now, not even counting the 600 plus in this development. That's a lot of influx coming into this area over the next couple years. Anytime you have that much population coming into an area in a short time, it causes property taxes to go up as the demands on the system are increased. Has there been any sort of study on what kind of impact that will have on taxpayers on their property taxes? People have already mentioned the traffic. People have already mentioned how the horses and the farms and the other things that have been going on in this town for, 50-plus years, and the people that move in complaining about it. I know what happened when I moved into Willow Walk. There were people complaining about the rodeo. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't understand what the big deal was. People complaining about horses going down the street. Again, I didn't see what the big deal was. You know why park? You don't blow by at 50 miles an hour, start a horse. All these are things to consider when we're approving a project of this scale. My other question is these improvements to Bruce and Oak and Farrell and all of these things that will be done as part of this project, who pays for that? Is that the builder paying that? Is that the home buyers that are going into this subdivision? Are they going to be ones paying that? And what about the ancillary costs after that? Again, tying back to the whole concern I have about what impact this will have on our property taxes. So I guess that's the basic gist of my concern is
Next is Brent, and then DJ Hernandez.
Brent Porfilio, qualifications, professional civil engineer, Willow Walk HOA president, 25-year resident of Lockport. We talked about capacity issues, and everything was planned out for this development a long time ago. In the last 5 years, the Silo Bend, Sadie Ridge, Oak Valley townhomes, and Springs at Lockport have been developed. Over 1,000 housing units, 1,000 in the last 5 years. As of the last census, there's only 10,000 units in Lockport, 26,000 people. This is an increase of 10% on the infrastructure, which was just mentioned. So let's talk about the infrastructure and who's paying for these upgrades. Are we the people paying for it? Are we being taxed for it? Are the developers paying for it? I don't know. I don't want to pay for it. I don't want more people in Lockport. Upgrades to the water system. What's the water well drawdown? Has that been looked at for a 10% bump in the last 5 years? And this is another 6% for Serenity Landing. That's a 16% increase. That's a lot. That's not 1%, it's 16%. Also the sewage treatment plant. Did anybody look at that? A 16% increase in the load on that. Is that going to be met? If it's not, who's paying for the improvements? The taxpayers or the developers? The city services. You have a 180 acre footprint, I think Lance said. You're going to have to hire police for that, aren't you? A couple more members of the police staff? You're going to have to hire more public works people because you got to plow the roads, you got to maintain the sewer system, you got to maintain the water system, you got to maintain the roads. Who's going to take care of all that? Who's going to pay for the extra people you're going to hire for city services? The developer or the taxpayers? The road system. Turning lanes do not improve capacity. Period. They do not. I looked at the IDOT ADT map the other day. 12,000 cars, you can look this up, 12,000 cars on Farrell between 159th Street and Division. That's right now. That's before this increase from all these developments. That is going to put it over capacity. Do we have money to add more through lanes on Farrell? Do we have room to add through lanes on Farrell? How about Division Street? It's at 8,400 cars right now per day. You add 15% to that, it's at capacity. Who's paying in the future for that? The taxpayers or the developers? Putting in turning lanes is a cheap alternate. It's not adding through lanes. There's a lot more money involved when you got to do that. Let's talk about the school system. There's 3,800 students at Lockport. Last I checked, 3,817. 15% increase in population puts it over capacity. Who's paying for the increases to the school system to support this? They talked about a letter of approval or something from the LTHS. I want them to provide some numbers because simple math tells me it's going to be over capacity. Who's paying for that? And the same with the school districts below. 33C, 92, all the other ones, Fairmont. Who's paying for those upgrades? Who's paying for additional teachers? The taxpayers, not the developers. Lastly, it's a saturated housing market. How in the hell are we supposed to sell our houses when there's over 1,500 homes that we're competing against, and there's another 170 homes right now up for sale? It's going to be nearly impossible, according to supply and demand, to sell your house for all the equity you've built up in it over the years. It's going to be destroyed because it's saturated market. Too much. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, this subdivision. We can't, it's too much, it's too soon. 16% increase on infrastructure. Who's paying the bill?
1 minute
The
left.
taxpayers are paying a damn bill. We don't want it. We don't want apartments either.
Please refrain from
We don't like apartments. I'm speaking for Willow Walk. Apartments bring crime. Apartments bring Section 8 residents that I want to guarantee they're not coming in, and it's going to lower my property value. And are there things such as the crime-free housing laws that have been talked about for the Springs at Lockport where they incorporated? And the same with the apartments here. Are they going to incorporate crime-free housing laws to protect the adjacent residents? That's all I got. Thank you.
DJ next, and then John, forgive me if I mispronounce this, Millet.
Hi, my name's Denise Julian Hernandez, and I'm a resident of Lockport. I agree with many of the points brought forward by others in attendance tonight, specifically the schools and the traffic. I live near Rotary Park, and if you drive down Division near Briggs at any point during rush hour, you're sitting there for 5+ minutes for such a small space. So they talked about improvements to the roadways around the subdivision, but not an extension of that. So I think that's something that's very important to take into consideration. I think that we're starting to lose our small town charm. Lockport, you can drive down and you see animals and you see farms, horses, and this is too much. We are at capacity, and I'm really concerned about the commercial space. Are there any limitations? Is it going to be a smoke shop? What's going to go there? Is it going to be another gas station? I'm really concerned about this commercial space that they're talking about. Are there any limitations on there? I'm so curious. Can there be? A gas station, right? I know. You know, is it another pizza place, another fast food place? I mean, I could understand the need for commercial space downtown if you're thinking, you know, we're talking about trying to engage the residents from East Joliet. What about developing State Street, kind of on the south end, versus thinking about placing this commercial space within several residential areas? So, thank you very much.
John, and then I'm assuming you're related Michelle Millet. They're not here. Next is Susan Cowers, sorry. And then after Susan is Nathan Kotira.
Yeah, my name is Susan Collins, and I'm a little bit from out of the area. I'm from Palos Hills, Illinois. I've been in horses. I moved to Palos Hills in 1975 to a horse property there. Palos Hills is a very unique and a very sought-after community because they were a huge horse community, and as the city moved in, the city incorporated ordinances immediately to keep the horses and to protect the horses. And people who I know in this room from the horse community that moved out of Palos Hills 75 years ago, 50 years ago, because they told me the horses are gone, were absolutely wrong. I'm looking at this in a positive. I think the planning board in the city of Lockport is missing a huge gift that's right in their community. People are attracted here because of the country atmosphere, because of the Old Town atmosphere. People love horses. You see them in advertisements, you see them everywhere. They're the newest thing for every therapy, and a very effective therapy for that matter too. And you're missing a point to work with the horsemen. And I think the horsemen to a point are missing the point that they need to work with their government. My experience with this, other than being an officer in the Horsemen's Association for over 50 years, is I show and compete regionally and nationally on Arabian horses. I keep them in a small place in my backyard. One of the things Payless Hills did to bring the horsemen in is I sit on the planning commission there, so I've had all the training and I can follow a lot of what you're saying too with the development. I know we can't stop development, but we can look at it, all these points before me. I mean, we can't stop the development, but number one, you better look at your horse owners and these people that have been here a long time. One of the things they tell you about special use and special things is that you can't hurt the characteristics of the community or the people that are already there. You've got people with 800 horses within a few miles. You've got to take consideration. Illinois state law is horse friendly. Horses have road rights. They have every right to go from their house riding down the middle of the street to get to the trails. That could be very dangerous. Payless Hills, and the time we've been there, they have now taken over what was privately owned trails, or there were subdivisions that put in access through the back of their houses to keep the horses going around there. Payless Hills has taken over, we've donated our parts of it, et cetera, and they maintain a private horse trail from my backyard to the Cook County Forest Preserve, only because I'm the farthest person, not that, you know. So we keep in touch. The people who said, you know, like, this will go away with more population. As we get more and more population, there are more and more problems. Fireworks that scare the horses, just all kinds of things. It also has very good things. I mean, I think we promote the horse industry in Illinois a great deal. I have a steady traffic of strollers. I'm on every grandparent's in Payless Hill schedule that their grandchild has to come out to the yard and look at the horses every 2 weeks. You know, so I think it's something you want to keep in this area. So you need to work with the horsemen, even with the businesses. You'd say this isn't going to affect me, except that I was asked by my friends out here that it's going to affect them, and it will affect me. I buy all my hay out here. You're going to put some farmers and merchants out of business. We buy, all our grain is delivered from this area too. You're putting those people and hurting our business. And I'd like to comment on a lot of the individual ones, but one of the biggest problems that hits the horse industries nationally right now is our lack of large animal vets. There is such a shortage. These people put a ton of money into their education.
1 minute remaining.
And they make a fraction of what the regular vets make. Premier into this area has invested a lot of money. This is one of the few large group practices left in Illinois. They're thinking of building a surgery center that will avoid us going to out of state to Madison or down to Champaign. You've got to work with these people. And to the horse people, I want to say, if you work with the city and if you get along with them, you'll be very happy with it, but it's going to be a lifelong thing. Thank you.
Nathan next, and then Katiana Palafox.
Good evening. I'm here to speak on just behalf of really everyone else who has spoken already. You know, there's so many things, so many items that have been highlighted. Like, we can talk about equestrian access on roads, okay? We don't even have bicycle access on roads in Lockport. So how are we going to do anything with expanding or moving things? I heard one of the gentlemen here earlier say there's going to be 0% illumination. That doesn't exist. Someone's going to turn a light on, you know, when it talks about, you know, equestrian health and those types of items. In addition, you know, the widening, the traffic, there was a few people who had mentioned before, you know, about the non-policing of Bruce Road traffic, Oak Road traffic, or Oak Avenue traffic. Okay, I mean, that's obvious, you know. And so how is it going to get better by putting in a turn lane, you know? And, you know, there's so many things that we really need to consider, you know, from a community perspective, okay? The community that we have here. And I know a lot of it's been focused on the equestrian aspect, but also it's about the open space aspect, okay? Can't we just live? You know, do we have to pack up every single space? You know, my son graduated, you know, from Lockport High School. My daughter did too, with 2,000 people in their classroom. You know what I mean? How are you going to deal with that when you're going to add another? You know, they had outbuildings and stuff to get through. It's not that we don't have too many people. It's that we just need to have people that want to be in Lockport who appreciate what Lockport is about. I'm done.
Katiana, and then John Arad.
Hi, I'm Katiana Palafox. I'm actually one of the other associate veterinarians over at Premier Equine over on Bruce Road. I'll keep it very short because actually a lot of the talking points regarding horses and their health have been covered in this meeting. But I do want to reiterate, like, just the amount of traffic that's going to be affected with this planning development. I actually live in Romeoville, and I have to cross that bridge all the time, so I'm always stuck in traffic. If there is more traffic that builds up and there is a potential for horses to get hurt on the road, it doesn't matter how close their clinic is. I can't help a 1,200-pound animal that can't stand up or can't get on a trailer. So I've seen cases where things happen to their legs, they have to be put down because we can't transport them. And if there's increased traffic, there's going to be an increased amount of risk, especially with all the people that live, and I've seen the people riding their horses along those roads. I slow down right away for them. And it's not fair to put those horses at risk, those riders at risk, and we can't help them if something happens, especially with that big of an animal. So that's more my concern, is just their safety in that regard. And bringing more people to subdivision is going to just bring more opportunity for potentially crime issues. I also live in a subdivision. Police are at my subdivision all the time. That's going to cause increased noise, more pollution, and it can affect the horses that live in that area. So it really has to, it's really like the owners that have those barns in that area are the real main important ones to talk to.
We have two people left. Delinda Harad is first, and then Rodney Burks. Is Delinda? Oh, there she is.
Good evening. My name is Delinda Harrod. I've lived in the Fairmont community for more than 50 years. My mother has only lived in Fairmont for the past 67 years. So we can appreciate the small town feel of Fairmont. I like it. I've lived in Atlanta, San Francisco. I've lived a number of places, and it's nothing like living in a small town where you can really get out and do the simple things. But most of what I wanted to talk about has already been addressed, but I'm very protective of Fairmont School, and what you're looking to do to Fairmont School is not fair. Not fair at all. Please give us the same consideration you would give another unincorporated community in Lockport. Thank you.
Rodney, and then I did forget Carl Beveridge is after Rodney.
Good evening. I'm going to be mindful of everybody's time. I know the hour is getting late. My name is Rodney Burks. I've been a lifelong, my parents bought their house in 1960. So I was here when there was just roads, gravel roads here. I'm scratching my head is because I'm hearing people talk about horses. I'm a horse fan, but my kids, my grandkids, the kids in the neighborhood don't even have sidewalks or curbs to get back and forth the streets. But we're talking about if one of those kids get hit, where are we going to take those kids to get treated? So I'm a visionary. I'm sick and tired of when I come out of my house over 60-some years, I see the same thing as my parents when they first moved into the house. So I'm looking at the infrastructure portions of it. That part wasn't addressed. If you guys are going underground or if ComEd is going to extend the three-phase, because that would help on the outages that we have in the Fairmont area when the power goes out. The upgrades will help. Like I said, I'm going to be mindful of your time. There's so much more that I can say, but the hour is getting late. I think if there's so many things that has been said that if we can go to the table, I don't know if it's too late now, and maybe Serenity can say, hey, you know what? Let's look into putting a horse trail there. You know, we hear so many positive things about the horses, but on the negative side, I have to run these horses off my property. They walk their horses on my property, and there's private property signs there. In the easement or in front of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, there's ruts from the horse's hoof. So when you cut the grass, it's just like you're on a roller coaster. So you mentioned to the people that ride, hey man, stay out off the private property, stay in the easement, but it goes kind of to deaf ears. We have horses actually coming on Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church property, and that's on Oak Avenue. So we're talking so much emphasis about horses. I'm saying, what about our kids in the neighborhood, how they get to and from school? We always had issues with overpopulation in school. When I was going to Fairmont, they was talking about busing us to, not busing us, but going to Kelvin Grove or St. Denis. Lockport East High School, Central was the main, Lockport Central High School was the main hub. We outgrew Central, but they had the capability of extending Lockport East. So we always had issues about the schools. And my taxes going up now. Anybody in Lockport that pays taxes, right now, your taxes have been increased. So, you know, there's a lot of things. I don't know how much this is going to raise our taxes. I don't know who's paying for what, but I'm just speaking on the visionary side of it. We have to develop our area. Or what else? It's going to be the same for the next 60 years. So I yield my time, and thanks everybody for hearing me.
And then last is Carl.
Good evening. My name is Carl Beveridge. I live at the corner of Oak and Briggs in Lockport Township. I live in Lockport Township, not in Joliet, as one of the displays showed us at the beginning of this presentation. Lockport Township extends to Roslyn Street, a half mile south of Oak Avenue, and over to Farrell. So just so all of you know, that the frame of reference is we're one of your neighbors, and we're part of Lockport Township, and I'm going to speak to three things. One of them was just mentioned by the gentleman preceding me concerning horses riding on private property. One of the reasons for that is we don't have an adequate trail system. And one of the things that was not addressed in this lengthy presentation about the Serenity Landing landscape is a provision for trails. For who? For what activities? Will horses be allowed on any portion of the development? Will any part of the development plan incorporate trails so that horses don't have to trespass onto private property and can travel in safety from one location to another. We have them going on Briggs Street, we have them going on Oak Avenue, and in many adjacent areas. And one of the reasons is many of them are trying to reach Hadley Valley, okay, the trail system that exists there. But there's no provision for that, and we don't see that in any of the development plans for this area. Another area of concern are the findings of fact. Those were established, as near as I can tell, in 2007. Most of your conclusions are based on what was arrived at in 2007. There was widespread public opposition to many of the items that are claimed in that. Have those findings of fact been published anywhere for public review? Could you answer that? Can anyone answer that question? The slides that were presented up there, have they been provided to the public anywhere?
They were posted as a part of the packet that was posted last Thursday in the staff report.
I read through that packet. I never saw those findings of fact listed, okay, at least what I saw posted. But that's like, what, 4 or 5 days before this meeting, and the public is somehow supposed to go through 340 some odd pages of presentation to find that information? I'll look for it again, but I don't think the public has had an adequate basis to review your supposed findings of fact, and that's something that needs to be addressed. Rights of way. There has been no detailed discussion of exactly how the corner of Oak and Briggs will be modified and whether the city of Lockport is claiming a 40-foot annexation and right-of-way for property on the south side of Oak Avenue from Briggs Street to Farrell. Now, most of the owners own to the middle of the road. That's in their recorded deed. Is Lockport claiming land and trying to take it 40 feet from center? What does it plan to do with that 40 feet?
You have 1 minute.
How will it impact us?
You have 1 minute remaining.
All right. None of that has been discussed. We need answers. My final point, and that concerns the convening of this hearing. As near as I can tell, this was convened under Ordinance Article 156, 183, notification. Part of that notification process says that folks within 250 feet of the development must be notified by registered letter. None of the people I'm aware of, anyway, within 250 feet were notified in that manner. They received a letter in the mail, all right, at least some did, but they did not receive a registered letter requiring signature. So you haven't made proper notification in accordance with your ordinance. And if that's the case, that throws this hearing in a legal question, whether you can address the motions that you want to approve, and that's pretty obvious from the way this has developed. So I'm requesting that you hold in abeyance these motions until you can convene a proper meeting and properly inform the public
Time is up.
about what your intentions are. Thank you.
That concludes the public comment for this case. It's up to the chairman.
You can have 2 minutes.
Imagine with a project this size that there had to have been an environmental impact study that was done. I don't know, if the results of that were infrastructure, you know, how that's going to impact the community. You're also looking at school and public services. I heard the doctor say that there was, I don't know, 1.3 million that was going to be provided. I don't know how that is going to be sufficient for the amount of increase that's going to be added to the community, when we're already seeing that there has been a shortage, or, you know, difficulty in being able to satisfy the capacity that's currently existing in Lockport as well. You're also going to have an impact on property values. How is this going to impact the other communities with this increase that you're talking over 600 units that are coming in? How is that going to impact the property values? I'm already paying $12,000 in property taxes as it is. And we're talking about a lot of increases that are going to be going on here. Where are these monies going to be coming from to satisfy the demand that's going to be put upon the city of Lockport in all these different areas? You know, we're talking about firemen, police, waterworks, the school district, libraries, you know, sorry? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Could you repeat your last name?
Flores, Flores.
Okay, that will conclude the citizens' public comment. I would ask if the applicant may want to address any particular concerns related to potentially traffic around the site, potentially the commercial space, thoughts on the commercial space and what that might entail. I realize that's a future piece and maybe you don't know what that is. And if there's anything else you heard that you feel you would like to respond to. And if not, that's fine as well.
Chairman, I can answer a couple of the city-related questions that came up.
Sure.
Just for information. I think one piece of information that the applicant's engineer would be helpful to answer is just related to stormwater and the changes from the current setup in detention ponds to what is proposed, and then how that interacts with Fraction Run Creek. I think that would be a good response. That was from, I believe, Mike's comments. There was a question about who pays for the improvements. The developer pays for all the outside roadway improvements. And future improvements, we do charge what is called a street maintenance impact fee. So that gets charged on a per house basis that then covers some level of future maintenance on those public streets that would be turned over to the city. On the water capacity, the city is in the process now, as well as was in the process about 3 or 4 years ago, of doing a capacity study. All of the areas within the city that already had zoning for residential and commercial and industrial were included in that study. This property was one of those studies that was included because it did have the zoning rights already in place from the 2007 approvals. The sewer treatment plant, that was also done within the last 5 years. That is what has prompted the modernization plan that we have for the sewer treatment plant. That will be starting up here in the next about 3 or 4 months. Our treatment plant currently is about 65 years old, and so there is a modernization that is going to be going underway to improve a number of the facilities, some of the components of it, and all of the, again, currently zoned areas of the city that had existing zoning rights on them were included in the capacity analysis, as well as some other select unannexed properties that relate to our comprehensive and other area plans that we have. Limitations on commercial space, there are some potential options that we do have related to limiting uses in the commercial space. We typically restrict those to things like strip clubs or auto repair shops or things like that to minimize what might be particularly impactful to surrounding residents. Generally with the C2 zoning, that's our community commercial zoning. And so that has a number of uses that are lighter retail. It's primarily what you find along 159th Street west of Farrell Road. Those types of uses are the ones that are found in the C2 commercial area. There was a question from Rodney, I believe, about utilities. Electricity obviously will be brought down to the site to serve the community here. That will all be underground services. Gas will also be brought to the site. Those run in the backs of yards, kind of in the drainage and utility easement that's established on most of those properties. Water, of course, is already on site. Sanitary services already on site. So all of those components are a lot of it is already in place, but not to the scale of what it would be to accommodate this development. Carl had some comments about trails on private property. I'm sure that the applicant or the city may entertain if we wanted to convert the bike path that is along Bruce to a horse path so that you have that access along the entire frontage of Oak Avenue. That may be something that could be certainly contemplated and included in the plans in the future. We would certainly look to your advice on what the material should be. There is already a planned 10-foot asphalt path in that area that would be in place within the public right-of-way that would be usable, but I know that that is also not perfect for horse traffic. So, you know, converting that material to something else could certainly be a part of a solution that would be considered. Related to the findings of fact, the findings of fact relate to the 2007 approval because they received approval based on findings of fact that were established at that time. And so those findings of fact still have relative merit because the property was rezoned to accommodate those based on those findings of fact. And so, yes, do some of the findings of fact reference historical norms? They do, because those approvals were in place at the time based on findings of fact at that time. And there is not a requirement for a registered letter to go out. First-class mail is acceptable. That is identified in our zoning code. It was updated in 2021. And so that does go out to all the residents within 250 feet. I think I covered most of the ones that were city-related, but Paul, I don't know if you want to cover the stormwater question, just to provide some more context for that. Yes.
I was trying to get closer to the screen where you can see it better. If you look at the slide that Lance will bring back up, or that'll work too. Yeah, the gray areas on this slide represent stormwater management areas. A lot of people refer to them as detention basins or ponds, but you can see the two larger gray areas more to the to the west. There's two areas there. There. All of this site is not drained to Fraction Run Creek. A good portion of it drains actually to the west and to the north. The two basins to the west, the gray areas, those are the ones that go to the west. The others, 4 of those basins do drain to Fraction Run Creek. With stormwater management, with this development, the site runoff will go to each one of these respective basins. With stormwater management, the runoff from a site is actually reduced than it is in its natural condition. So I know there
I'm going to put that button, I think that your mic turned with. Is it green?
Green, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Did, hello, could everybody hear those previous comments? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess if you think of a stormwater basin as like a bathtub, you turn the faucet on, you know, the drain isn't working quite properly, or if water will back up into the tub, get to a certain level, but then as you turn the water off, it actually recedes based on the outflow capacity of the drain. These stormwater basins will work in the same way.
Thank you.
Keep turning off on me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think the battery's running down.
Okay. Actually, unless there's any questions, I'll conclude with that.
Very good. I do have one additional question. I'm curious what the current student population of District 89 is, if Dr. Daniels is here. Pardon? 300? And may I ask what the capacity of the school is?
Not much over 300 right now. Our classrooms are almost to capacity. We also have a Lockport area, especially at the walk, that's also in our facilities.
Or you can use this one if you like.
Sorry, we did confirm with our architect that we would need to do some expansion. And so right now, if we expanded, he said about $450 per square foot. And so if we had to build, we're looking at $550. Right now, I only have one classroom that is available in my building.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I would entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Peter, second by EJ. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Okay, commissioners, it is time to discuss these.
So I'll start, I guess. The first thing I'd like to do is thank everybody for showing up. This is much more informative for us when we hit this level of input. I would also encourage you to read the packets ahead of time as well, so some of the questions were addressed in here, and also realize that this is also the Planning and Zoning Commission. This will also have to go through the City Council, and they have a little bit more information on things such as taxes, things that are kind of outside the purview of this committee, that I don't really have the answers on the tax portion of it. We are in the planning and zoning phase. You know, the biggest thing that kind of jumps out to me is the Fairmont school district. You know, that's one thing that's, you know, a little concerning, but you know, in terms of some of the other things, I do think that with development does come also some of the solutions to some of these issues, right? People aren't going to be going 55 miles an hour down Bruce Road when it's wider and when there's more people and there's more police presence. Quite frankly, now we have 23,000 or 25,000 residents, and in that area there's a couple hundred. So diverting resources and things like that, I know is difficult. So, you know, there are positives, there are negatives. This has been kind of essentially planned for the last 18 years. There have been other developments that have happened since then, and I do believe that the vast majority of those have had overall positive impacts towards the city of Lockport. So, you know, thank you to everyone for showing up. Thank you for the developers for proposing a plan that answers the vast majority of the questions that were raised. You know, that's kind of my initial thought.
appreciate your comment that the purview of this commission does not concern itself with taxes, property values, things of that nature. Bigger picture city planning, overall traffic studies. Our purview is the zoning regulations as it relates to this particular site and the requirements that are put on this particular site and this particular development that has been out there for almost 20 years. So I would ask Lance, as this moves forward, I think your comment about potentially considering a trail surface along the south side of Oak to potentially, at least a portion of that, accommodate horses, as it is our southerly neighbor there. I live in this area, and the place I see that is most safe for horses to travel is Hadley. And the areas that have horses, my personal thought on this is, all of those properties are more or less together, and if they had a trail that could connect to Hadley right at Farrell, kind of near the creek, that gets them on a trail with miles of path to ride on, as opposed to streets that are dangerous. I get it. I drive these streets all the time as well. So I think, another question for you, Lance. Has the horse community come to the city of Lockport to talk about integration of horses with the city and with potential future developments?
They have not. Our boundary agreement with Joliet is Oak Avenue. Joliet has planning authority over everything that happens south of Oak Avenue. If they were ever to be annexed. As an unannexed property currently, they're under the jurisdiction of Will County from a land use standpoint. Just to clarify your previous point, the item I was offering as a consideration would be on the north side of Oak Avenue as a replacement of the bike path that is currently proposed, or a modification to the bike path that is currently proposed. We can't do anything on the south side, to Mr. Beverich's point. In many places, they own to the middle point of the road, except for maintenance that's required on the road by the authority having the jurisdiction over the road.
And I apologize if I misspoke. I meant the south edge of the development.
Yes.
So, yeah, same path.
Yep. And I would also add to that related to other paths within the community, those would all be homeowner association owned. And so the horse owners would need to work with the homeowners association once it's established as to whether or not they would want to allow horses on their paths internal to the property. They are not public, which is the only reason that I can suggest that a consideration could be made for Oak Avenue, because it would be a publicly owned path.
Okay. Thank you, Lance.
Scott, Lance, I just have one comment. And obviously, I agree that probably the biggest concern is the Fairmont School District and the capacity that you had. I know you said this would be immediate, but this is in 4 phases, I believe, over the next 6 or 7 years. So with the commitment to work with the Fairmont School District and, 1 classroom now, just the whole, what it would take, what the studies say it would be in phase 1, how many kids versus phase 2 versus phase 3 versus phase 4. Because I know you said immediate, but I think it is spread out over, almost, coming up to 7 years, by the time people move in and young kids move in. We're talking maybe a decade down the road where some of these kids would potentially get into the school district. So that's just something I would like to kind of, if there's something that we can do for the Fairmont School District in that study.
Yeah, and I know it's difficult as it relates to school district boundaries and those boundaries changing, but it, may be a discussion amongst superintendents between Fairmont and Taft and Kelvin Grove and 33C. I mean, is there a way that those boundaries can be modified to help out a Fairmont school district not have to absorb something that they may not be able to financially handle? I'm just kind of thinking out loud again, in the same vein as Joe has spoken.
Yeah, in my conversations with the high school, they are getting ready to do an update to their demographic forecast that they had done in 2021. The reason why the high school was okay with the population is their forecast at the time, and it has followed since, is that their population is declining because there is not as much starter home construction going on in certain areas of the high school district. And so the younger families with the young kids, they're seeing an erosion of that younger population that will start hitting the high school. It has started to hit the high school and will kind of get to its highest point in about 5 to 6 years before it starts to bounce back up a little bit from there. But I know that they are going to update that. The last time that they did that, all the feeder districts were involved in that. The previous update included this property in their forecast numbers, so that was a part of that. I know that in talking to all the districts, including D89, that there have been some changes in characteristics of students. They have had more special ed or special needs students that require a little bit larger space within the school, so that has certainly changed, but the raw population number has declined over time. That update will certainly provide both the high school as well as the city and the feeder districts certainly information that they can use to be able to plan appropriately for their facilities, capital, operational needs that they have in the future.
Thank you. Gentlemen, if there's no other discussion here, I would just ask if there's a motion to adopt staff's findings and recommend approval special use permit for plan development with rezoning to C2, R1, R2, R3, and R4 districts.
Yeah, I'll make that motion aligned with the staff's recommendation to take a vote on.
That's the first one. It's going to go each one at a time.
Yeah, so adopt staff's findings and recommend approval special use permit for plan development with rezoning to C2, R1, R2, R3, and R4 districts. Do we have to do these separately, or can we roll them in? Separate,
We're going to do
okay.
separate. So motion by Peters. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Giorgetti. Kathy, roll call vote, please. He's excused.
Yes.
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 Motion passes.
Is there a motion to approve the preliminary subdivision plat and preliminary development plans and final development plans and plat for Phase 1, which is Unit 1 and 3A, subject to the following conditions? All of those remaining items from engineering review number 3 memo shall be addressed prior to the December 3rd, 2025 committee of the whole meeting.
I'll make that motion as well.
Motion by Peters. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it as well.
Second by Giorgetti. Kathy, roll call vote, please.
You got it. Claims recused, Calderon.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Likens.
Yes.
Mycheck. Georgetti? Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, the next case on our agenda is number 2024-005, the final development plan and special use permit for Quick Run Gas Mart at the northeast corner of 151st and Archer Avenue. Lance?
Attorney
take
Carroll,
1 minute while people-
yeah, Attorney Carroll is going to go get Commissioner Quinn.
We'll ask Kyle to... Gents, if you need to take a bathroom break, you're welcome to take a quick 2-minute break. I'm just going to let him take a bathroom break real quick. He's got to go to the bathroom.
Imagine this is the light that's bothering your house. I can put a 3-inch shield that it doesn't go out. They actually make lights, even though it's a light here, they shine towards the store. Because we want to light up the store night, you know, because we want people to see us. So why would we pay for electricity?
By the way, my microphone is. Won't go on at all.
What did you kill it for?
I didn't like it. Kept blinking at me. Kept blinking at me.
Are going to look at case 2024-005. Kathy, you good? Which is the final development plan and special use permit for a quick run gas mart at the northeast corner of 151st and Archer. Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion by Giorgetti. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Calderon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Alyssa?
Yep, I will begin with our presentation. Note down. All right, so a little background information on this proposal. It will be a gas station at the northeast corner of 151st and Archer. The parcel size is about 1.8 acres. It is currently zoned C3 Highway Commercial, and the current use is that it is a vacant property, and a special use permit is required to operate gas stations on properties zoned C3. Here we have the site location, and you can see it's on the corner of 151st and Archer. These photos show the current conditions of the site. This property is zoned C3 Highway Commercial. Surrounding zoning would be R2 Residential and unincorporated Will County to the north. On the west, we have C2 Community Commercial. That's within the city of Lockport, and it operates as the American Legion. To the south and to the west would be R2 Residential, also unincorporated Will County. This is a site. The site area is approximately 1.8 acres. There will be a convenience store on site. That building will be 4,650 square feet. The pervious area of the site will be 30% and impervious will be 70%. The pervious and impervious meets our zoning regulations. Parking will be 20 parking spots, 19 stalls will be regular, and there will be 1 handicap stall. There will be a right in and a right out only on Archer. 151st Street will have a left and right turn in and out. However, trucks may only turn right out of onto 151st. There will also be a detention for stormwater management. Next, we have the landscape plan. The landscape plan is in compliance with zoning code regulations. The transitional yard will be on the northeast side abutting a residential property. This transition yard will have 51 trees. That is 13 more than the city requires. There will also be 88 shrubs and 854 square feet of grass. The parking lot exterior will be 100% screened with plantings at 30 inches in height. The right-of-way will have 5 trees along Archer Avenue and 9 trees along 151st. The parking lot interior has 3 parking islands. Each island will have a tree and live plant material. And then there is a detention basin that is landscaped and fenced around it for safety. Sorry, not done there. There is outdoor storage and a trash enclosure. Those will be fully screened according to our zoning code. And then around the building, we have 50% plant coverage. This is an architectural rendering of what the site is proposed to look like. This is the west elevation. This is the front entrance of the building. The building's exterior will be constructed of black brick with stone accents. The convenience store also has a pre-finished aluminum storefront window system. The building will have a cornice and a parapet. This is the west elevation. Nope, this is the east elevation. This will be the rear of the building. And then we have the north and south elevations. This picture shows the signage. We will have a sign on the building, and then there will be 2 monument signs. One will be on the corner of Archer and 131st, and one along 151st, near the entrance and exit. And now we are at the standards for special uses. The proposed building or use at the particular location requested is necessary or desirable to provide a service or a facility in the public interest and will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or the community. Section 156 of our city's zoning code has identified this specific site as a pre-approved location for a gas station. It will turn a vacant property into a commercial development. This development will then generate tax revenue for the city and offer fuel stations and a convenience store for the public. The development will meet the city's standards for landscaping, commercial building and design materials, and traffic circulation. The proposed building or use will not have a substantial adverse effect upon the adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, utility facilities, and other matters affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. This location is viable for a gas station because vehicular access comes from arterial and major collector roads. Water service will connect from the American Legion. Sufficient screening will encompass the development, therefore providing a barrier between the gas station and residential lots. The proposed building or use will be designed, arranged, and operated so as to permit the development and the use of the neighboring property in accordance with the applicable district regulations. The developer has designed the site to operate in accordance with all applicable district regulations. And then we have our recommended motion if the commission's finding of the final development and plan and special use permit to be acceptable, but we are opening up for public comments first, is that correct?
Yes. I would just ask, does the applicant have anything they would like to add to what staff has already presented? If not, that's fine. Okay, very good. Thank you. Commissioners? Okay, I would just ask commissioners, do you have any specific questions for staff prior to us opening up to public comment? Everybody good? Okay.
Chairman Linkus, Planning Zone Commissioners. My name's Stephen Poteet. I live with my wife Leslie and two children, Jade and Tristan Poteet, at 15032 Archer Avenue, directly across the street from the proposed gas station at the site at the northeast corner of 151st Street and Archer Avenue. I appreciate the city's interest in economic development in this corridor. However, I respectfully raise serious conditions related to traffic, lighting, noise, and most importantly, my private drinking well water located in my front yard approximately 120 feet from the proposed gas station's fuel pumps. The impact on safety. The applicant's concept plan is published in February 14, 2023 minutes, acknowledge that full movement access point from Archer Avenue is immediately adjacent to the residential driveways across the street, my driveway. I see that's changed to a right in, right out in the final plans, but I believe that to be inadequate as vehicles will attempt to make a left turn into the proposed development from Archer Avenue, no matter what striping, lane markers, or signs are posted. Given my location directly across opposite the entrance, I anticipate increased vehicle turning, queuing, large truck movements, and associated safety risks for my driveway and the residential side of Archer Avenue. I request that you impose alternate conditions or barriers limiting the access point facing my property, requiring a comprehensive traffic study with turning movements, queuing lengths, not yet published. I had heard earlier that there was a study done, I guess, by the developer that was submitted to IDOT, but not a traffic study itself done. That's what I'm requesting, an IDOT traffic study done at that. Everybody knows that corner. It sucks. To mitigate impacts to adjacent homes. If we think about the left-hand turn there, what they're looking to do, if anybody's familiar with Maple and Gallagher, the gas and wash at that corner, if you're on 6 going westbound, approaching Gallagher, you turn in the left into the gas station where they've got the no turn sign. It's no turn, no left turn. They got the striping, no left turn. What's everybody do? Makes that left turn, right? Light pollution, night operations. The gas station code also sets forth that lighting requirements, all under canopy lighting, shall be recessed so that no light lens projects below the canopy ceiling and the canopy fascia shall not be externally illuminated. It's Lockport code. From the record of the 151st Archer case, neighbors already cited concerns about light spillover and requested photometric plans showing zero spill on adjacent rental lots. I've studied those proposed photometric plans. These can in no way be correct. While no direct light will be shining on my house, ambient light and the headlamps from vehicles will have major and direct impact on the use and enjoyment of my property, ultimately diminishing my property values. Because my front yard is open and I face the station canopy, I request an accurate, full photometric plan be submitted, the lighting hours be restricted from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and the lighting design include cutoff fixtures orientated away from the residence, plus a solid privacy fence and/or berm between my property and the station. Noise, use, and enjoyment of property. Noise from vehicle movements, fueling operation, convenience store activity, possible truck refueling, vacuums, and other equipment will significantly affect my ability to live peacefully in my home. As you know, in Lockport's code, 156.124, Section E, Paragraph 2, requires a special use permit to avoid substantial adverse effect upon the adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, public health, safety, and general welfare. It's not happening with this. I respect and ask for restriction on the hours for noisy operations, no vacuums after 5 o'clock, something like that. Equipment placed away from the residential side, and noise buffers or fencing along the shared frontage roadway. Drinking water and well environmental risks. This is my big one, because like I said, my well is in my front yard, approximately 120 feet away from where the pumps are gonna be. My greatest concern is environmental. I maintain a
1
private
minute
drinking
remaining.
water well in my front yard at 152, my address on Archer Avenue. The proposed station to underground storage fuel tanks, fuel delivery operation, and expansive paved services pose a serious risk of contamination, fuel runoff, or impacted groundwater flow toward my well. In the public minutes from the earlier 2022 concept, neighboring residents raised same concerns about their local wells. While the code requires a gas station to be no less than 300 feet from a public water supply, my private well, which is approximately 120 feet away from the proposed pumps, receives no such protection explicitly. Therefore, I request the following. A hydrogeological study showing groundwater flow and safe setback from my well, installation of monitoring wells between the station and my property.
That's time.
Secretary, I'm almost done, if I could be.
You're at time. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
You're at time. Thank you.
Could I be given another 30 seconds? I am almost done. I think there's enough.
Please finish quickly.
Thank you. Hydrogeologic study showing the groundwater flow and setback from my well, installation of monitoring wells between the station and my property, secondary containment for any spills, and permeable pavement and drainage systems that divert runoff away from my lot, a drainage plan that prevents an increased stormwater or contaminants flowing toward my well. In summary, I urge you to treat this proposed station as one of the most sensitive developments because of its use. It's because of its proximity to a residential home with a private well and not simply as a commercial use. Under the special use standards, this board has to find that this use will not be a detriment to the public's health and safety and will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of neighboring properties or substantially diminish property values. I ask you to either deny the special use permit for this site or at a minimum impose the strictest set of conditions that address these 4 key concerns. Thank you for your time and consideration, commitment to protecting the quality of life for adjoining residents.
Thank you.
Second card is Raymond and Glenda Gonzalez.
Good evening. Ray and Glenda Gonzalez. We are at 15027 South Archer. We are the house directly north of this development. Our property butts up to this development. We are not opposed to the new development as we see it as being an improvement compared to what's there now as an eyesore. But we do have some issues. One that Steve talked about, which I think is a viable safety concern, is the egress and exit onto Archer Avenue. As it pertains to us, that egress is probably 10 feet away from our driveway. Even though it's right hand in, right hand out, I see in the site plan that there is looks to be a cement island there, but on the location map, I don't see one. And I would like to, I would like to see that there is something there that is going to limit that. Archer Avenue is already quite busy with truck traffic. And the fact that it's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, before you even get to 151st, if you're heading northbound, I believe that that's just gonna complicate it. That egress is just gonna complicate it and make it more dangerous. Actually, I think my only other bullet point would be the hours of operation, which we had discussed in other meetings, in the city council meetings, that they wouldn't be open on a 24/7 basis. You know, again, because of the ambient light and because of the noise factor. Mr. Singh has assured us that that was not going to be the case. And I just want to reiterate, that he follows within those guidelines. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, that was, I thought that was a signing sheet. So, I just wrote his name down.
Okay, got it. Sorry about that.
We weren't sure if it was a comment sheet.
Thomas and Mara Shine.
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
They did the same thing, apparently.
I
Yeah.
tried to abandon everybody.
So much for our neighbors.
I'll take their time.
He will take their time.
I'll take their time.
Yeah, she just signed in too.
And Daryl Burke.
We don't know who that is. That ain't a neighbor. That's not one of us.
Those are the folks who signed for this particular area.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
For a couple of questions, specifically the traffic ones, Bob, I wanted to see if you could kind of walk through the traffic study, and then maybe if Bill has a couple of points that he would want to make as well, that might be helpful. That way everybody has an understanding for where things stand and who is reviewing what and who is performing what service.
Absolutely. So there has been a comprehensive traffic impact study done for the site. We've been primarily focused, we being the city's consulting engineer, on the 151st Street, which is City of Lockport Road. Archer, Illinois Route 171 is IDOT. So they're the ones that are ultimately going to control the geometry of the entrance, whether there's turn lanes that are required, and the configuration of what we call.
This one keeps coming off. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that.
And the configuration of what we would call the pork chop, which is the raised island that would restrict the right-in, right-out access. So I do know that the applicant is still in the permitting process with IDOT. We have made the IDOT approval and the ultimate permit a condition that needs to be satisfied prior to the start of construction. So that might be the time to maybe ask Bill if you have an update on where you're at with IDOT. So, in terms of the impacts on 151st Street and Archer intersection from our review, there's already a traffic signal at that intersection. And outside of them having their final determination on the Archer Avenue improvements, we've been satisfied with the traffic study as it is.
And then a couple other items that were brought up. I didn't get all the lists, so if I missed one, just let me know. There are no vacuums on the site. There's no car wash. There's none of those components, so there isn't a vacuum noise. So certainly one. There are no vacuums proposed for the site.
Okay, but I'm saying it's in the packet that was put before the commission.
Okay, if there are, then we can certainly have them removed, but to my knowledge, we have never discussed any vacuums being on the site. But that is a concern that we will make sure gets resolved and documented accordingly. The light standards, the photometric plans that we have in place, we do require 0.0 foot candles. Again, just to clarify what foot candle means, that is a registration of light in a photometer at ground level from lights that would happen there. So our requirement is basically that if you take that photometer to the edge of the property line, that photometer will not register any light hitting the photometer. That's what we require when we say 0.0 foot candles at the property line. Does that mean that somebody won't be able to see the fixture itself? No, that is not the same thing. But foot candle is a registration, and it's a way to do lighting design that's broadly applicable across the spectrum and across the state, communities, the nation. I do want to note, though, and I don't remember if we had made this in our photometric plan and the lighting. I know on the north property line we had house side shields installed on the back side. That may be something that we could look at on the south side lights. So a house side shield is basically you have a 90-degree cutoff lens, and then there is a metal shield that kind of frames the back side, which minimizes that view from the other side of the light fixture into the actual light element itself. So we can certainly look at doing something like that because of that concern that was being registered. Trying to think of other things. The commenter had talked to me previous to the meeting about an IEPA permit, and then also Bob mentioned about the IDOT permits. In essence, it's a condition of our approvals to the point where, even if they received approval tonight and at the city council, if they don't get those permits from IDOT and the IEPA, then it's not a project that can move forward regardless.
And the IEPA, Illinois Environmental Protection Agency, as it relates to such things as groundwater.
Whatever they review it for is a part of that,
Okay.
part of that review.
Thank you.
Vacuums, lights, went through traffic. Hours of operation, I think we've responded.
Open at 5 in the morning and close at 11 p.m.
Okay, so hours, just to state for the camera, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. So not overnight, just until those hours. I think that was the broadest place. Did I miss anything? No? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Lance. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Quinn, second by Calderon.
Yep.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Any internal questions here, gentlemen?
So I do see what you're talking about on the plan. It looks like there's a standard tire inflator stations that are paid, and you have to have, some of them have a vacuum attached to it. It's not like a row of vacuums or anything at a car wash. Is that what I'm seeing on this thing? Are those still planned to be there?
About 90% of the time it's that here that's mainly used, but some of them do have a vacuum option on it, and if money's put in the machines, it only runs for 4 minutes, and after that, it doesn't run. It turns off. It's on a timer. But nothing like a car wash where it's constantly running.
Commissioner Peters, did you have anything?
No, No, the biggest point, is about the groundwater safety, and given that obviously gas stations are highly regulated, the IEPA has their standards, that's of utmost importance to us. There's, reasons why we don't want gas stations everywhere in town, that sort of thing for long term. I will trust the IEPA on this one. Obviously that would be terrible if there were to be some sort of incident, but that number and that percentage has to be an incredibly minuscule number, from what I've read in preparation for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing no more discussion, I'm going to call the question and ask if there's a motion to approve the final development plans for Quick Run Gas Mart subject to the conditions 1 through 3 as noted by staff, and to approve the special use permit for a gas station on a parcel zone C3 highway commercial at 15051 South Archer Avenue.
So moved.
Moved by Calderon. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Giorgetti. Roll call vote, Kathy? Yes. That's okay.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Calderon?
Yes.
Peters?
Yes.
Likens?
Yes.
Mycheck?
Yes.
Giorgetti?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Kathy.
Mr. Chairman, can I request that we move our deer variance case at the end of the night up one so that we can just talk about code-related things at the end, and she can make her way home to probably kids and a husband?
Yes, sir. We can move that number 4 to number 3. And I know Mr. Calderon will need to exit at 5 minutes because he has to go to work. But we will still have a quorum, Kathy. So please take note. Thank you. Okay. We will move to case number 2025-004-AD, property located 16558 West Ash Lane, zoned R1, a variance to reduce corner side yard setback for a fence from 15 feet to 0 feet to allow for a 6-foot privacy fence to extend to the property line. Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Moved by Peters. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Quinn. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes. Staff report.
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan, for staying and sticking through with us. Much appreciated. All right, so we are working on a proposed variance request to allow for a 6-foot privacy fence to extend to a property line on the corner side yard. Our zoning ordinance regulations say that a fence located in a corner side yard must be of open design, not exceed 4 feet in height, and be located a minimum of 15 feet or 1/2 the distance between the house and the property line, whichever is less. Fences shall not be located less than 1 foot from the corner side yard lot line. And for reference, this is the plat of survey. And here's our background information. We have our applicant, Megan, who's very patient with us. She is located at 16558 West Ash Lane, and she is zoned as R1, single-family residential, and her surrounding parcels would all be R1, single-family as well. These are photos of what the property looks like. And now we are at our findings of fact. So the property in question cannot yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under the conditions allowed by regulations of the district in which it is located. Staff finds that the property could yield a reasonable return if permitted to be used only under regulations allowed in the R1 district. The proposed variation will not merely serve as a convenience to the applicant, but will alleviate some demonstrable and unusual hardship that will result if the strict letter of the regulations were carried out, which are not generally applicable to property within the same district. So with this one, we've got a little background. The owners at 16549 West Split Rail Drive, which is the parcel abutting 16558 West Ash, and the Split Rail Drive is to the north of the property. They received approval for a 6-foot fence along a corner side yard at the property line. Former staff had originally approved a 4-foot fence at the property line, which was in accordance with the zoning at the time. New owners came in, they wanted a pool, and staff at the time told the owners that they would have to install a 6-foot fence around their pool. And staff also allowed for that 6-foot fence to remain in the same location that the 4-foot fence previously was along the lot line. So now our applicant would not have, the applicant will not be allowed to have the same condition as her neighbors if strict enforcement of the code is upheld. The alleged hardship has not been directly created by any person presently having a proprietary interest in the premises. The hardship is city-created and not applicant-created. The proposed variation will not be material detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. The proposed variation will not negatively impact the public welfare. The proposed variation will not impair an adequate supply of light and air to adjacent property, substantially increase congestion in the public streets, increase the danger of fire, or endanger the public safety. The proposed variation for 16558 West Ash Lane will extend the conditions already created by the adjoining property, which has not created unsafe conditions over the past 10 years. The proposed variation will not alter the essential character of the locality. The character will not be altered as the property to the north has a fence at the lot line of the corner side yard. The proposed variation is in harmony with the spirit and the intent of this chapter. Previous staff had allowed the neighbor to the north to create a situation that was not in harmony with city code. The applicant's proposed fence location would adjust well to this unique situation. And now we have our recommended motion. So I will turn this back over to our commissioners.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Because of the unique nature of this, this would not be a precedent-setting thing. So if you'll remember last month to our variance case, that would have set a precedent for the neighbors across the street. But because this is a condition related to an existing component that was a city-created hardship, it would not be precedent-setting for, say, the people across the street or on the other corner. This is very specific to this particular home.
Mr. Chair, if I could add on to that, Lance and I had multiple conversations about this case. We can't go back in good conscience and ask the other owner to correct a non-conforming fence that we allowed. We looked at how many other properties would be similarly situated, and the answer was 0. And so even talking to a neighbor just tonight before the hearing, he said, it'll look wonky if you make her move hers back. And so this really was a city-created problem, and so we really reviewed it multiple times and had several conversations about it. And that's why we feel comfortable with our findings of fact to try and get around the problem that, as Alyssa mentioned, previous staff had created.
Okay, thank you. Anything else you would like to add as the applicant?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I didn't think it'd get to this, but here we are.
Okay. Any specific questions that our commissioners have about this variance?
So, one comment that I have, and I certainly, first of all, thank you for staying at this late, but And I agree, going up to match the other fence line does make sense, but where it was located directly next to the driveway, and, you know, kids riding those electric scooters and everything down the sidewalks, your sight for kids coming down that would have been limited. So we actually have, if,
Melissa, could you put the slide back up that illustrates both properties?
yeah, a quick little
There you go.
proposal where it
plan.
actually moves the fence line to the back of her house. Still allows her to go back out for the sidewalk with maybe a little, with a corner cut out to give her additional line of sight for kids either riding up that sidewalk. And that's what's going to be passed out in this design, just to make it a little safer for anybody coming up and down that sidewalk.
One thing I would like to add too about that is one thing that would make it safer at that corner for not only me, but everyone else, is our street light has been out since before I moved in. And a neighbor actually mentioned it to the city, and it was supposed to be fixed. And they came out, they had an electrician come out, and now I have like 4 holes, and it's still not fixed. So as I was leaving, I was picking up my neighbor, and somebody was walking their dog, and I couldn't see them because of the street light. So not only my fence, but things like that could be fixed too. It's kind of silly, but
That one's not quite under our purview, but I'm sure Lance will take note, or Alyssa, and pass that on to.
Yes, we can
City
find the right
maintenance.
person to talk to about that.
and with this, I agree, makes sense. I would just need, I guess, measurements so I know what we're doing when we do it, so I don't put it up and they tell me I should have put an extra panel or something.
Yeah, we can work with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to make sure that findings of fact under D and E are properly laid out so that there is no detrimental impact to the public welfare or endangerment to public safety, whether it's anyone from your family that's moving along that sidewalk or any neighbors or anyone else in that area. As it was pointed out by Commissioner Giorgetti, recognize that someone backing out with a fence that close, you lose line of sight, and even a rear view backup camera's not going to pick up a person on a bike cruising down there, and that's heartache you never want to feel. So I appreciate Commissioner Giorgetti bringing that up. That makes sense. So we would leave this in Lance and Alyssa's hands to work through adequate sight lines for the final placement of this fence
Correct.
to get back to that corner of the adjacent property owner's fence.
The variance to the corner side yard, as it relates to the offset off the property line, it does not relate to where it cuts back to the home. So your approval is really about the north or the west side going north-south. We'll work with the applicant on the east-west leg to make sure that we maintain that safety level.
Okay. I would ask if there are any citizens to be heard outside of the applicant on this case. I don't see any. So we'll move on, since there are none, and ask if there is a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Quinn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Peters. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, unless there's any other discussion amongst commissioners, I will call to question and ask if there is a motion to accept findings of fact and approve the corner side yard setback for fences from 15 feet to 0 feet? From 15 feet. And to accept the findings of fact and approve a 6-foot privacy fence from a 4-foot open design fence in the corner side yard, as we have discussed alignment of the final placement of that fence to create no blind spots when backing out of that driveway.
And I believe the end of that sentence should also say from a open design fence to a privacy fence.
Okay, with that adjustment, Kathy's recording.
I'll make a motion to approve that with those adjustments to let the 6-foot privacy fence go from 15 to 0 with, that consideration of the site fence. And then, of course, I think I did say privacy fence, so it doesn't have to be a 4-foot open design. So did I cover both of those, Scott, for you?
I was just reading what was put before us with the adjustment. So there's a motion,
I will second that motion.
second by Quinn. Roll call vote, Kathy.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for hanging with us here.
What was that?
Thank you for hanging with us.
Bedtime, yep.
Okay, our final case, gentlemen, is case number 2025-001-TA, text amendment to Chapter 156 in the zoning code of the Lockport Code of Ordinances. Is there a motion to open a public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Quinn, second by Peters. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Staff.
We're just going to make it kind of a big picture intro to this. This is an element that is a long time coming. We have been challenged by these particular metrics and bulk regulations for pretty much my entire time here over the last 6 years, and I'm sure beforehand as well. And so we have taken the opportunity. We engaged a zoning consultant to help us with this work, did a significant history as well as talking to adjacent communities to come up with recommendations that Alyssa is going to go through. Tonight's case with Serenity Landing was a perfect example of exactly why these are needed, so that we can better clarify that and not have them be an issue because they aren't an issue. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa, and she's going to walk through what we're recommending.
All right, so we've got our summary taken care of. What we will be proposing is some additions to the definitions. So we would like to go from the code saying lot coverage to saying building lot coverage. And that would be the percentage of the zoning lot occupied by buildings, including accessory buildings and structures covered with a roof. And then we would like to add a definition for open space. To save time, I think I don't need to read the definition. You guys have it.
We do not currently have a definition for open space in our code. I'm not sure.
Lance, mic, please.
I don't know if that was just something that got missed when we redid the code. So we have been using kind of best practice dictionary language for it as we've evaluated development projects. But this was something that we wanted to make sure that we got incorporated into this so that we can have that tied together in the code.
And then we also will go through some alterations of bulk regulations that we're proposing. And much of this is related to attached single-family homes. So on this slide, we are going for maximum building lot coverage. So we have it separated for detached single-family, and then we've included maximum building lot coverage for attached single-family. And the maximum lot coverage for attached single-family in R2, R3, and R4 would be 70%. And then maximum impervious surface coverage for single-family detached remains the same. We are adding maximum impervious coverage for attached single-family. And in R1, it's staying the same as 45%. We're doing R2, R3, and R4 is 85%. And then removing minimum landscaped coverage. All right, so we've got an example of attached single family from Sadie Ridge. And Under current zoning regulations, the maximum lot coverage would have been 30%. However, it was requested and approved for Sadie Ridge to have lot coverage of 65% for their townhomes. And it's not because the buildings were densely arranged, but it was rather that lot coverage did not include all the common space that surrounds the property. And normally a single-family detached home would have that property in their actual property, and there wouldn't be that maintained common space by an HOA. And our proposing zoning would allow for 85% maximum impervious and 70% maximum building lot coverage. So that would be slightly more than what was approved in Sadie Ridge. And those would be maximum numbers we are proposing. And as another example for Sadie Ridge, this is what it looks like platted. So you can see that the townhomes are on the smaller lots, and then surrounding it would be the outlots. Additional alterations would be setbacks are added for attached single-family dwellings with rear-loaded garages. We also propose adding setbacks, building setbacks for attached single-family dwellings to be specifically called out in the code, and then have the availability for reductions in lot area and lot width if additional open space is added to the plan in intervals of 15%.
So just to comment on this one, there are two sections to this. The top section is related to separation distances. And what that is important is it defines the land planning layout for townhomes. So oftentimes, we want X size backyard. Well, the way they plat townhomes doesn't allow us to have that sizable backyard between the buildings. So what oftentimes communities do is they put in separation requirements. So irregardless of whether the property line is 5 feet outside the building face or 10 feet outside or 40 feet outside, the buildings themselves basically reflect a single-family detached neighborhood, because we require that, for instance, I'm trying to read one of them, let's say, end to end or side to side needs to be 15 feet between buildings, irregardless of whether where the actual property line falls. Or the front to front and rear to rear requires it be 50 feet apart. So in essence, both properties have a minimum 25-foot long backyard. So again, that's irregardless of where the property line falls, but that helps to keep air, light, distance, all that kind of stuff between the buildings themselves. The south portion of this, the south portion of the graphic of the table is related to amendments that we had made back in 2021 when we revised the code to reflect average lot sizing, and then additional density increases when you add certain percentages of open space. Serenity Landing tonight was a perfect example of that. In one of the units, I think it is 4B, the furthest most east one, they have over 50% open space in that particular property, which is 15% more than the minimum required by the city in the code. Because of that, they were able to reduce their average lot size to be 1,500 square feet less than what the standard lot size would be, because the theory being in conservation design that you would have additional open space that would additionally buffer any adjacent properties or any adjacent things that would be impacted by the density, and that open space isn't otherwise developed as something else. And so that's the reason why that south half, we had already had that in the code, but what we needed to add in here is a reflection of it being in the R3 and R4 district, because we did not have that in the previous code.
Thank you, Lance. And then just a small change to our schedule of parking requirements. We currently require 2 parking spaces per dwelling, whether it's detached or attached. We are also proposing to add 1 additional space per 10 spaces required for the total number of dwellings as visitor parking located in areas generally accessible to a proportionate number of homes and units This would apply to attached single-family developments only. And now we are at our recommended motion.
That visitor parking thing is basically something that we have also struggled with in the past, wondering where people who are staying overnight in townhomes that have limited on-street parking area are able to park. This provides that requirement that they provide. Park there because they can't park in the street. I'm flashing.
I can cover the dead space. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff on this case?
The only question I have is, I know we don't have much, if any, right now, but how does R0 fit into this with attached single family?
So in R0, it's allowed in the RO district. So I'm not sure.
Are there any because I think I just don't know the numbers offhand. I think most of those numbers are smaller setbacks than all of these anyway, but I didn't know if there was anything, obviously since we didn't include it, that we didn't feel the need to change, because I'm guessing that they're already smaller than all these anyway.
Yeah, this does not include any changes to the RO district.
Anybody else? Commissioner Giorgetti. Mics are dying. You good? Okay. All right, are there any citizens to be heard on this? Don't see any, so we will make a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Quinn. Is there a second? Second by Giorgetti. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. I'm going to call the question and ask if there is a motion to recommend approval to the City Council for the proposed amendment to Chapter 156 of the City's Code of Ordinances as presented to us this evening.
I will make that motion.
Motion by Quinn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michek. All in favor? Kathy, how about a roll call vote on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Likens?
Yes?
Mycheck?
Yes.
Erland is absent. Giorgetti?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, staff. Is there any new business?
No.
Is there any old business? I don't see any more citizens to be heard. Chairman's report, I would just ask to verification of the date for the December Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and location. Are we still here?
Yes.
And
So,
the date?
yes, we will still be here. The date has been confirmed based on responses from all of you on December 11th. So that is a Thursday. We will be here in this building at 7 p.m. I wish that I could say that we'll be back in City Hall, but I am 99 point infinitesimal nines positive that we will not be.
So we'll plan on being here Thursday,
Yes.
December 11th. Township Building.
Thursday, December 11th. It's the only day the township had available to be here to hold a meeting.
Well,
I'll talk about it with you afterwards. That's not
Okay.
that's not a motion that the commission needs to make.
okay.
Yeah.
And then for 2026 Planning and Zoning Commission dates, you will kind of let us know what we're
That was approved at the last city council meeting, so they will be on Wednesdays
Wednesday.
in 2026, second Wednesday of every month. Theoretically, in 2026, we'll be back at City Hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything else other than, I appreciate everybody grinding through another long, difficult meeting. Any other reports? None for commissioners? And any other staff report?
We will have a couple cases on the December meeting agenda. Still waiting to finalize those. One will be the Crash Champions that you have heard before. The other is a concept plan for the southwest corner of 159th and Farrell.
Okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Giorgetti. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Michek and everybody else. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Kathy, thank you for grinding through this. It's not 10, but we did our best.